Welcome everyone to the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is something that I've wanted to do ever since I found out that this movie was coming out, especially on streaming. Anyone who's paid attention to me for any amount of time knows that I'm a huge DC fan, and but it's been a while since I've done a review of a recently released DC movie. Mainly because there haven't been too many of them that have been out lately. But I've wanted to do this. I didn't really get to do one for Birds of Prey when that came out last year for whatever reason. But this one is the latest entry in the DC extended universe, and I think most people who know me know what a huge DC fan I am. I love the Marvel stuff too, but really DC is like I really love those characters, especially Batman and Superman the most. So I think because of that, I tend to be maybe a little bit more excited or forgiving about certain things when it comes to these movies than most. But we are talking about Wonder Woman 1984. The official release date, internationally, it was released on December 16th. And in the U.S., it was released on December 25th, Christmas Day, in theaters and on HBO Max. Really unique way to release this has been the start of what HBO Max is doing. All these major Warner Brothers tentpole pictures that they're going to put directly on HBO Max and in theaters as well, because of COVID-19. I know because of COVID, this movie was originally supposed to come out in June of 2020, got pushed back because of the pandemic. I know that the movie ran about like 2 hours and 30 minutes, so I'm sure that there was some footage on here that they might have tacked on after the fact as like almost a director's cut that maybe might not have been meant for the theaters. I don't know, but it ended up being 2 hours and 30 minutes. This one was written by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns, and a guy named Dave Callahan. There was a different writing staff on the previous movie, so that might have explained a few things. I think generally speaking, the consensus seems to be that it was relatively disappointing. Some people just outright hated it and said like, oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. I don't feel that way about it. I don't feel that strongly about it necessarily that I hated it. I did have some problems with it, and we'll certainly get into it, much in the way that I had some problems with Batman versus Superman. Even though I've kind of come around on that movie a little bit, there's still some things I kind of bump into on that one. But this one, like I said, I didn't hate it, but it really could have been a lot better than it was, with some simple changes in my opinion, but we'll kind of get into that. But first, I want to bring my panel into this. Obviously, this guy is done almost, pretty much every movie, cinema related podcast I've ever done. He's a occasional filmmaker in his own right, but he's been a friend of mine for many years. John Walters. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? Hey, man, it's been a long time.
It has.
I'm happy to be here.
Exactly. No, I mean, you're sort of my unofficial co-host when it comes to all the movie stuff that we've done over the years. So I'm glad to have you.
It's a lot of fun, for sure.
For sure, and I'm glad to have from my band Vertebreaker. He's been with us for a little bit over a year now. He's been in the band. He also happens to be a huge comic book fan as well, so we connect on a variety of different levels. Please welcome Derek Allen.
What's up, dudes and dudettes?
Not much.
How's it going?
You're coming in hot with that intro.
You laugh every time I say it too.
Yeah. Hey man, you got a catchphrase. I guess you got to stick with it.
Absolutely. Branding.
And then last but not least, we have a guy coming back to who's making his second appearance here on the show. He's my cousin, Jimmy Gaspero. Welcome, all the way from Wilmington, Delaware. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing?
For sure, man. Jimmy's been an actor for years, and he's a lawyer by day, but has acted quite a bit ever since we were kids. So he's a big cinephile as well. So I'm always glad to have him on here, and he's a big comic book reader still to this day.
Yes, very much so. But thanks. I'm glad to be here. But I'm happy to talk about Wonder Woman 84.
For sure. Derek, you met Jimmy's brother Bobby a little while ago. We recorded something for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but it ended up didn't It ended up just being really badly recorded because it was on my wife's old computer. So we ended up not being able to use that, which is a shame. But I do want to revisit that movie, one of these days.
So, Jack, I have to say, I would make an argument in your intro that you said you love these DC comics so much that you're kind of more forgiving. I would say that also makes you a little more critical on these characters.
In some
I
ways.
would make an argument, especially Batman.
No, I mean you're not incorrect. When it comes in some ways, I think I mean every time you interpret one of these characters, there's going to be different takes on it, different choices that are made. And I try to be mindful of that. I mean,
it's a neither here nor there type of thing. I was just stating. When I heard it, I was like, he's a little more critical on a couple of characters that I know.
In some points, that's fair. But I mean, I try not to be one of these like, okay, if it's not exactly like the comics, then I hate it. Then it sucks. And that's kind of the approach I took with this movie, where it's like, I ended up being disappointed. There were things in it I really enjoyed. But there were other things where it's like, man, I wish they did that differently. And I don't know. I mean, I'll go around the room, see how you guys felt about it generally. John, I'll start with you.
I mean, you're, the whole consensus disappointment thing, I would fall in that category. I think as in just kind of in general, I would be disappointed with it because I think she did a much better job with the first one. Sequels are generally harder, but there's a lot of sequels out there that are better. But I think there's just, I don't know, there was too much going on. I mean, they could have made it work. It's not like there was too much in the movie. They just didn't fit things together. They didn't explain things together. It went against itself a lot of times. They just, I don't know. It didn't flow correctly. I think just in general, it was a little bit of a disappointment. Well, it was more of a disappointment. That doesn't mean there weren't any redeeming qualities to it. There were some things that I had a lot of fun with, and I did enjoy. So I'm not here to bash it like completely. I'm just saying, in general, I think it was kind of a more disappointing movie. I think there was just a lot of things thrown in there that wasn't woven correctly and didn't follow the rules that they were making for themselves.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. John, I know you're a big Hans Zimmer fan. You should probably be excited that he came back and he did the music for this one. I know he and Junkie XL created that iconic Wonder Woman theme that we first heard in Batman versus Superman. So it was kind of cool to see him come back to the DC fold and score this one. I know he didn't do the first one, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was really cool. It was they definitely spliced a couple of like other Hans Zimmer music in here. So like even the like when Max Lord was kind of was considering renouncing his wish.
That piece of music was in
Batman v Superman.
That was in the intro to Dawn of Justice. I recognize that.
For sure. So
piece of music.
Anytime Hans Zimmer's in it, that's a big thumbs up for me, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Derek, how about you?
I'm kind of on a seesaw about it because I don't know if I hated it or if I can live with it. Like I'll probably never watch it again. I mean, for me, the actual movie should have ended after like the first 15 minutes after she stopped the bank heist. It really should have just been Wonder Woman 1984, the short film. Because, I mean, there was a point where I paused it at an hour and 8 minutes and nothing had happened within that hour and 8 minutes past the bank heist. I mean, it's a very slow-driven movie, and I think they were trying to tell too much of a story. It actually kind of, for me, gave me vibes of Batman versus Superman, where they pulled a lot of elements from different arcs of the comics to try to put all into one movie. But like John was saying, it didn't really work together. They didn't transition it well. It just it was too much. It was, 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag pretty much. And a lot of the excess stuff that they put in really didn't even help the movie. It was just extra baggage.
Yeah.
A superhero film should have heroes doing superhero-y stuff. You know, even if it's just her saving cats out of a tree, like that would have been more exciting to me than the whole, bring, the love interest and the dream stone. And it was rough. It was rough to get through
All
for
right.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of, I mean, I echo what John and Derek said, especially in terms of piecing things together from different stories. I think there's like a part of maybe in DC's Rebirth that I think Greg Rucka wrote. Maybe Nicola Scott was the artist on it, where I think happened at like a big mall or some type of open air that was very reminiscent of that opening scene, like inside the mall. It wasn't set in the 80s, but but then there were other pieces that were clearly had inspiration in other eras. I just felt overall there were a lot of choices made that I don't think made sense in terms of the rules of the world that they were creating. Like I didn't understand the rules of the Dreamstone. It seemed like he could only grant somebody's wish once, but then it seemed to be times where he was granting somebody's wish a second time. Chris Pine was back in it, but spoiler alert, they show him he's in somebody else's body.
Yeah.
But then at the end,
we'll get into that.
Then at the end, they show the nuclear weapons just disappear. Well, why not just make a new Chris Pine?
Yeah.
So
that was definitely my thing too. He had a wall. A wall was literally built out of nowhere, right? It materialized. So why can't Chris Pine materialize?
Yeah, as opposed to taking spoilers. We're gonna get into the spoilers in just a second, but
I mean, there were a lot of things that I thought were really fun, like big, action set pieces that were very comic booky in terms of like Wonder Woman using the lasso to ride the lightning. That just looked like, give me that big ridiculous stuff that looks awesome. Like
she even lassoed a cloud at one point. I don't even know how that works scientifically, but
stuff like that I thought was great and was a lot of fun, and I really like those elements of it. I mean, different, like you said, Jack, whenever there's a new iteration of a movie from a comic book, there's always going to be different things done. Maxwell Lord didn't quite line up with the character. I know from the comic books there were a lot of differences.
Yeah.
And the same thing with like Barbara Minerva's backstory. For the most part, there were some big changes, but stuff like that typically doesn't bother me as long as it makes sense for the story. And I thought Kristen Wiig was amazing. I really enjoyed her. I thought she was really great. I thought she did a fantastic job, regardless of what the character backstory was. She really inhabited that person. And I love, as I said to start this, I love Pedro Pascal. I thought he was great. I mean, he was like acting with a capital A, but I thought for the most part, Pedro Pascal was in a different movie, and I really wanted to see the movie he was in.
Interesting.
I would have to say Kristen and Pedro were really good. They own their parts, I would say.
Interesting that you mentioned Max Lord, Jimmy, because I mean he's a character I didn't really know a lot about, but I've seen like different iterations of him, both live action and in animation in various DC shows and stuff like that. From what I understand, like in the comics, he was a businessman that sometimes he was like the benefactor of the Justice League, but sometimes he could be an enemy as well. Like he was basically like an amoral businessman. Like he wasn't always a full-on villain. He was just kind of somewhere in the middle. But I guess at some point he got some mind control and telepathy powers. And at one point in the comics, Wonder Woman actually killed him, like murdered him, with the lasso of truth. It was pretty metal.
That's basically right. Like, Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord kind of came from nothing, built, basically, I think the movie said he basically had a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
In order to, trying to, I think his company was called like Black Gold or something like that.
He was basically Jordan Belfort of The Wolf of Wall Street.
Sure. Yeah. The Max Lord, for the most part in the comics, at least I'd say since the late 90s, early 2000s, was always wealthy, like came from wealth, was a business person. And yeah, in different comic book events, like after the invasion storyline, he kind of got mind control powers, and then he could also create illusions. I think he ran Checkmate for a while. He had a really big role in
OMAC project,
Infinite Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was involved in like Brother Eye, I think. In the
admittedly,
OMAC
I don't know a
project.
ton about those stories, but like I've seen, blurps here and there on the Wikipedia for the character. But yeah, he's basically the character they use when Lex Luthor isn't available. Like, okay, we need an evil rich guy. Get Max Lord in here.
Yeah, he's also been involved in some of like the DC stuff, like Checkmate, and he was the benefactor of Justice League International. But when they needed somebody who, seemed to be the good guy, but also could do like somewhat underhanded espionage type things that needed done. But Max Lord was always in it for like Max Lord for the most part, I think, in terms of the comic book character.
There you go. There's a little backstory on Max Lord. I appreciate that. So so we're gonna get into the movie right now. I think because it was on HBO Max, as opposed to like when I see something in the theaters, I'll usually see it once and then do one of these. Because it was in HBO Max, I was able to go back, watch it again, kind of take scene by scene notes, sort of like as me and Jim did for that deep dive from Batman '89 a while ago. Go back and listen to that, by the way. Yeah, so I kind of did that, and I figured I'll kind of go through that just kind of beat by beat, and hopefully not make it too long or too boring for you, but just kind of let you guys know what all you guys listening, I should say, what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and feel free to follow along. I mean, as we record it, it's still January of 2021, so I think HBO Max is the only place where you can watch it, unless you're going to the theaters. Which, why would you do that if you're listening to this at the same time? That's weird. But yeah, if you want to follow along, you can. It's not like a strict watch along, but we're going to get into spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, spoiler alert. You've been warned.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, including the four of us. We all entered into a suicide pact after watching this. No, so like we open these big sweeping shots of Themyscira, which was really cool. I think they shot that mainly in like Spain and the Canary Islands. Not much of a DC, not much in the way of like the DC title card, weirdly enough. It just kind of like it had DC for a second, then just got right into it. Themyscira looked amazing. It looks like some different scenery than what we've seen in like the previous movies. Yeah, it opened up with a voiceover, Gal Gadot doing the voiceover, and we see a young Diana running through the woods, and it was played by the actress Lily Aspel, she was the same little girl who played the young Diana in the previous Wonder Woman movie. So that's a nice bit of continuity there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just some gorgeous opening shots as we zoom to like the arena where the Amazons are competing in some sort of like tournament, with an obstacle course.
Their own Olympics, for sure.
Yeah, it's basically like American Ninja Warrior on steroids. Like this is.
Yeah. It's going to be like the final game on the next season of Survivor.
Pretty much. Yeah, like I'm not sure what they're competing for, if they're just doing this for fun. I mean, who knows what they do, there on the island, but yeah, so Diana enters herself and is the only like young child there on the island. But I mean, apparently that doesn't slow her down because she's like right ahead of the pack, almost from the get-go. Her aunt, we see her aunt Antiope, who was, spoilers, was killed in the first movie, but this is a flashback.
What? Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, she didn't just go back to being a child just randomly. This is a flashback, but she warns her to be careful, but encourages her to do her best. And yeah, I mean the whole sequence was it was pretty cool to see because it kind of establishes that all the Amazons have superpowers or at least enhanced abilities. I think I think Diana is naturally more powerful than the rest of them, which would explain why she's like ahead of the race for most of it, even as a kid. At one point, she gets knocked off her horse by like a tree branch, so she, kind of takes this little shortcut. There's like the secret tunnel that she goes through.
There's like slides just everywhere.
Yeah, because I mean, she knows the island pretty well. It's like her big playground, more or less. So she takes this little shortcut that allows her to jump back on her horse. But towards the end of the race, she's about to finish first before Antiope just cuts her off right away. And she's very upset about, and she gives her, and so Antiope gives Diana this really good speech about, no true hero is born from lies. And it's like, you cheated out there. I couldn't let you win. And, it was a nice moment. Like, okay, you're teaching her, the value of being honest. And yeah, I mean, I thought that moment went pretty well. And, yeah.
So this whole training sequence thing, it actually went against the rules of the first movie because her mom was emphatic on no training for Diana as a child.
Right.
In the first movie. And now all of a sudden she sees her in the Olympics and she's like encouraging it, smiling in the stands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know from the first movie at some point then Hippolyta turned to Antiope and was like, okay, I know you're trying to protect her, so train her harder and train her that she's better, train her harder than everyone else. So I don't know where that falls in the timeline. So
yeah.
So that kind of lines up. We do see the statue of Asteria, who was this legendary warrior, and they told the story about the golden winged armor. We kind of see a glimpse of that, and Hippolyta is there kind of consoling the young Diana, telling her about Asteria and saying that, Diana, one day your time will come. Just lots of emotional validation here, But it's kind of a nice scene.
I thought it was a good opening, sequence. In terms of establishing, I think a theme for the rest of the movie. I thought it did a pretty good job. I thought. The shots in and of themselves were great in terms of, just following along with all the action. I really enjoyed the opening.
Yeah. Derek, what did you think about that opening scene?
I thought it was a good, fast-paced, action-packed kind of scene. I was a little bit confused when she got knocked off the horse because I guess that's an automatic disqualification, which to me, I mean, I don't know. I didn't understand the rules to the games really. And
I think she was distracted and like looking somewhere else and just accidentally got knocked off.
Well, right, but then she tried to finish the race. Now she took shortcuts, sure, but were there rules? They didn't really say anything. Why did she cheat? What did she do to cheat other than take that shortcut? Which
that's a good question.
Without rules,
also, what are they competing for?
Right.
Because I don't know the context of this game, but I mean, it looked great.
Oh no!
Even during
it's a fantastic scene as well as far as being shot. Like the directorial direction that they took was wonderful. The cinematography was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, my only complaint about this thing is that it doesn't necessarily like impact the rest of the movie, at least strong enough to really I think justify it being there. I mean, it's a great scene. I like it, but like you have the lesson, about being truthful at the end, which is like, okay, that's kind of indirectly sort of references what's going on. At least it's nice, some backstory, some character building, but like it wasn't like overly necessary in my opinion.
Like if she had jumped out of a bush and drop kicked one of the other contestants' horses and then finished the race, like, okay, cool. I mean, let's be fair. That would be
even in that, they were during the competition. Remember, they were hopping on like
there was one chick who pushed
platforms.
Another one
I mean,
off.
they body slammed the other one or whatever. So it's like obviously there are rules to this when we just don't know it. Apparently, you can't take slides.
I mean, they go full contact.
You can knock somebody off.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I guess as far as the audience is concerned, we're just supposed to know that cheaters never win.
Right.
I guess that's the big focus, but
I think that's the big takeaway, for this one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
With all the extra stuff you put in the movie, you could have explained a little on that one.
Yeah.
Interesting note.
I think it's probably a way that they could get Robin Wright and Connie Nielsen in the movie. They must have had contracts like, hey, we had at least a 3-picture deal here. Get us in here.
So interesting note is that apparently, the next scene is going to be the 80s mall scene, but apparently WB, in an attempt to try and make this movie shorter, they're trying to tell Patty to, you need to choose one of the openings. You either stick with the Amazonian opening and cut the mall scene, or stick with the mall scene and cut the Amazonian scene. But Patty just had to have both. So I think WB was trying to make it shorter than what it was.
Good for Patty for sticking to her guns on that deal.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they shot it already, you might as well use it for something. But so we cut to Washington D.C. in 1984, which is right there in the title. 1984 was a big year, certainly a big year for me. I was born in that year, so
Me too.
Yeah, John too. So really important for me personally, and John. So
a child of the Dreamstone.
Clearly.
Hey,
Rose and John O'Connor wished for it to happen, and here I am. Same with Robert and Melinda. All right, so, but yeah, we see a woman jogging. There's this close up of this woman jogging, and at first I thought it was either Diana or Barbara, but it wasn't. It was just sort of a general downtown montage of scenes. We see the TV ads from Maxwell Lord, and his character reminded me a lot of Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. I think he was sort of also based on Gordon Gekko, and to a degree, according to Patty Jenkins, he was also based on Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor from the old Superman films. So I could kind of see that. But yeah, definitely some Robin Leach / Jordan Belfort vibes going on there. So we cut to this red Firebird that's speeding, Pontiac Firebird that's speeding through the streets, almost runs the jogging woman over, but Diana rushes in at super speed and kicks it away. And I guess this sort of explains what she had been doing for the last 66 years. I guess she had been kind of saving people in secret.
and full out red, white, and blue, or red and blue.
Yeah, the armor doesn't exactly blend in if you're trying to be secret.
Yeah.
But I'm not complaining because it's Wonder Woman.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess she was on a secret patrol or something, maybe just checking out because she was there right away as this random car accident was about to happen. But not complaining because she's helping people and just trying to be discreet about it. So.
I thought it was a good way to establish, kind of what she's been doing, where we see her helping people. She's not, fully glimpsed. I think it adds to the myth of the character in terms of the way she was kind of helping out and saving people.
You buy it because she's really fast. And in addition, while all this is going on, we see we see this montage of various scenes. There are these girls shoplifting from a store. There's close-ups of people in the mall eating these this big fast food and stuff. So I guess it's supposed to portray examples of greed and gluttony, and supposedly I guess that's one of the reasons why they decided to set it in this particular time frame, which even setting it in 1984 I thought was a really specific choice. Honestly, they could have set this movie today in 2020 or just even really any time, and I don't know if it would have really made all that much of a difference. That's sort of the vibe I got from watching the movie, where it's there were a couple things that kind of happened. They referenced the Cold War later on, but ultimately, for being a period piece, they didn't really lean into the 80s all that much, in my opinion.
I agreed, and I think it would have been a better timeline if it was in the 2020 or whatever, because what's going on here? It doesn't make sense for the overall timeline of things.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, no, it didn't. I mean, the mall scene was the most 80s scene, and which was a lot of fun. But that was definitely the most 80s. Other than that, it was just kind of like here and there of what seemed like the 80s.
Right. It's also kind of depressing looking back on it now. It's like, man, malls are closing down. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of depressing to see that or to think about it now as opposed to back then. But that's a sign of the times. But at one point, Diana, like, these shoplifters knock over like a bride and groom who are doing some kind of wedding shoot there on the street. I noticed that right away. I'm like, okay, that seems like an odd place to do like a wedding photo shoot, right in the middle of a busy downtown street, in the middle of traffic. But okay. Jimmy, your wife Sarah is a photographer. I don't know how many gigs she has like in the middle of like downtown Philly or Center City,
No, not
during rush hour.
Yeah, I don't know why it had to be. You always wonder about things like that, like when they're making a movie. Like, well, why did costuming make him a bride and a groom? Like, why did it have to be like that? Was there some connection? Like, who said, oh, let's just not make it two people doing this.
Right.
It's got to be a
let's
bride
add some
and a
stakes
groom.
to it.
Yeah, like what time is it? Like why? It was like in the middle of the day, wasn't it?
I mean, I was almost expecting like, okay, now she needs to save a bus full of nuns, like or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's a reason why it's just there, just so it could be saved.
I mean, it was really distracting though, because like she saved the bride when they pushed him out of the way, but my initial reaction isn't, oh my God, Wonder Woman, yeah. My reaction was, damn, that sucks. She wore that wedding dress, and now it's probably ripped or torn in a couple of places.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a concern. It's certainly better than like cracking her skull on the concrete. But yeah, I mean, that's at the very least a minor inconvenience. So sure. Hopefully she paid her deposit. I don't know what the deal is on that. But we cut to the big mall, to the mall scene, which is a really giant mall. Like they filmed this at the Landmark Mall in Alexandria, Virginia. At first, I thought it was like the National Mall in D.C., which I've been to before. But yeah, it was a really nice set piece. It looked like a really big shopping center, almost like the Mall of America in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and like I mentioned, there was these examples of gluttony. Like there was this weird zoom in on these two guys in cowboy hats, with the bigger of the two guys taking like a massive bite of this roast beef sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is that in the frame? I don't know. I guess it's an example of gluttony, but it's not very subtle. So I don't know.
I mean, I guess I don't know, shots of excess or whatnot.
I mean, maybe they had a deal with Arby's, but no product placement in there. I don't know.
No.
So yeah, but like we see this shot of like these kids at an arcade. There's a close up on like the one overweight kid for some reason. Maybe they're trying to hammer that obesity is bad message into there. I don't know. I don't know. But after a quick shot of Max on a yacht, we cut to this jewelry store in the mall where armed robbers enter and really like quietly and subtly stick up the place. But like But we find out that the robbers aren't after jewelry, and that this jewelry store is really like a front for this smuggling trade of like this like really of this group of like highly valuable archaeological items that's like on the black market. So that's why like the heist was a relatively quiet one. The guys just come in and say like, hey, we know what your store is. We're after your stuff. Don't call the cops. So the clerk lets them in, and they nearly make a quick getaway when one of the robbers accidentally drops his gun on the floor of the mall, and this lady spots it. She screams for help, and everyone starts to panic. So the crooks make a run for it. There was this shot of this one guy running up the escalator going the other way, which is kind of funny. Like I don't know if that was meant for laughs, but I found that one shot to be comical. Once the cops
I
show
think
up.
that was a little too comical, and for me, where I was like, okay, it's getting a little borderline spoof movie here.
Yeah,
When
we're
he's like,
almost getting into like Richard Lester and Superman 2 and 3 territory with
right,
that.
right, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so once the cops show up and they get the drop on all the crooks, one of the crooks grabs, gets desperate and grabs this little girl and dangles her over the balcony, like threatening to drop her, like pretty intense stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty intense.
thankfully Wonder Woman drops in from the skylight very dramatically, very dramatic entrance like through the skylight. That's some Batman stuff right there. But she drops in, she swings in with the lasso and does a lot of interesting swings with the lasso. It's almost like Spider-Man like how she whips that lasso around and does some stuff that we had never really seen before with the lasso. But she swings in.
I guess that lasso can shrink and grow in size. We
like
didn't.
mass shifting maybe.
Yeah.
It seemed to be of like indeterminate length.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll allow it.
It's like she can wear it on her belt or whatever she's wearing, but then all of a sudden she's like lassoing a lightning strike from like super far away to just swing, So I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, I liked all the lasso stuff. I
didn't even think about that, but yeah, like you're right on that. It does kind of whatever the plot needs it to, which I'm fine. I'll allow it. I'll look past it on that one. But
I mean, that's kind of how it is with everything. Look at Iron Man. I mean, look at Captain America's shield, right? I mean, it just kind of does whatever you need it to do at the most convenient time, So
yep.
But so I don't mind it. You can live with that for a comic book story.
And I thought it all looked great. I really enjoyed I liked how they tied in the jewelry heist with the archaeological objects in the back and the whole scene of Wonder Woman taking on the crooks. I thought it just all looked great. It looked fun, and I liked how I sometimes get on the DC movies more so, or criticize the DC movies more so than Marvel at how dark they are, not in tone, but like actually dark in terms of how they're shot. I loved how their Wonder Woman was saving people, and it was broad daylight. You could see everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I like how she used her headband to take out the security cameras. I thought that was a nice little added detail. Like, okay, I'm trying to be incognito here as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, she swings in, saves the little girl, starts cleaning house, and at one point she just kind of like winks at this other little girl who sees what she's doing and is just like, wow. And it was a real like Richard Donner Superman type moment where it's like you're kind of communicating to like the young kids watching, like, man, this is fun. Yeah, Wonder Woman's your friend, and like, isn't this cool? And so it was a cute moment, I thought.
I mean, in the I'm trying to make sense of it all. If she's trying to stay incognito, I don't get why she's wearing what she's wearing out in broad daylight.
I mean, I agree.
I understand she's out like saving people and doing the right thing with what she has. But if she's trying to also stay incognito, it doesn't make any sense at all. To be out in the streets, saving, pushing a car over where you've got I mean, even back then they had cameras. I'm sure they had some type of surveillance camera out there, and so it doesn't make any sense. But you got to have a Wonder Woman with.
Yeah, she's got to be in the suit at some point. It's like I can't. I mean, I can't imagine it's super comfortable for her to make saves in a tube top and armor with a broadsword, but and heels. I guess I don't know. I mean, we're all dudes, so we can't really speculate on that. But
as far as the action scenes, I think there was like, I don't know, 4 of them. I liked the action scene.
For sure.
I enjoyed them making the action scenes. There's just rules and plot stories that this movie was like, it didn't make sense. But I didn't. So, we're talking about the mall scene, and that was an action scene. I like all of that. I like it when when that was at her like full strength, and then throughout the movie you kind of see that she's starting to lose some of her strength, and I think those were well executed when she's starting to lose her strength. Although there was some stuff again that was like, I don't think that's right, but we'll get into it later. But,
Absolutely,
I
absolutely. I know. We cut to a news report that says, that kind of implies that she had been sighted in the DC area, and said that there had been a series of, of similar related stories, which sort of establishes that she's been living in DC for at least a year or so. We then see her enter her apartment in through the balcony, and I think this is kind of cool. I mean, I do like all the shots of the pictures from throughout her life since 1918, where
yeah.
Although the only thing I bumped into was like, okay, why would you keep all that stuff out there in your apartment in case anyone comes over and sees all this and sees you in this? And if you're trying to keep us, it's like,
but she has guests. I don't think she has people over.
Yeah, she's not exactly a social.
Night?
Well, I mean, who knows? Like, anyone could stop by and just like, even if she's having like pizza delivered, someone could like, maybe that's a stretch.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a little bit of a stretch. She's not having anybody over.
No, I mean, she's not a social butterfly, but it's like, that's one of those things, like, just in case, maybe keep that in a secret room or something. Or just make up a story, be like, oh yeah, that was my mom in that old picture. She looks just like me. I guess that's as good of a cover as anything.
I did like the photo of her and Etta Candy, standing in front of like New York City, and she's much older.
Yeah, it was like an elderly. We see an elderly Etta Candy, and there's a picture of her at Charlie's wedding. Charlie was like the Scottish guy from the first movie. Yeah. So she was there at his wedding. And there's possibly a picture of her maybe like liberating a concentration camp during World War II. Maybe like she could have gotten involved with that as well. I mean, I don't know if she like was involved with like Korea or Vietnam or anything like any other like wars during that time. Maybe they never really come out and say that.
So did she buy a ranch?
That's what I was curious about, the shot of her at the Trevor Ranch. I didn't know if that's like something that she owned, or maybe Steve's family owned that.
Yeah. I was just wondering.
We never really know anything about Steve Trevor's family.
No.
Maybe he had relatives who owned a ranch. Maybe she got in touch with them and be like, hey, I knew your son or nephew or whatever his connection was.
But it was there so that way, it's establishing that she's always held Trevor.
Sure,
she's never forgotten about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that she might have like bought a ranch or opened it and named it after him.
Yeah.
And then she has Steve's old watch on display, sort of as an artifact. We then see sort of an outdoor restaurant where she's sitting alone, she's having dinner by herself, and I definitely understand that she was devastated by Steve's death, but at the same time, like it's been 66 years. Like, are we really to understand that she hasn't really made any friends or dated anyone in that amount of time? That seems like a long time.
That's only like a couple years for her. I mean,
I guess, forever, but like
right?
That seems like a long time to grieve for a guy. I mean, I get he was your first love and everything, but like really, they must have spent like what, a week together. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they really do set up a lonely existence for her. Like, because other than that photo of, the older, Etta Candy, there doesn't seem to be any indication that there's really been a lot of other people for a very long time, which it does kind of, it does surprise me that there wasn't, anybody else. That they set up this. I mean, I guess it makes sense in the terms of like her wish when she gets to the Dreamstone aspect of it. But
yeah, it does seem 66 years is a long time. Not to like.
Well, I think they were almost it's kind of like they're, what is it? Hands were tied with the whole Batman v Superman, with her being gone for 100 years or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Where she's kind of like, I guess that's the only other way is to live this lonely life.
I mean, maybe.
But
I mean,
you're right. You're right. There's got to be there. You'd think there would be somebody.
You could also make the
you know.
argument that, yeah, I mean, like, a lot's happened, but maybe at this particular point in her life, maybe a lot of her friends from World War One have passed away or gotten really old, and maybe she's just at a lonely point in her life. I mean, peaks and valleys. You could.
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because the character of Wonder Woman they set up in the first one, even though she was, new to the world when she leaves the island, but she, we see somebody who's, very is a warrior, but also very personable. She fits right in. She gets along with everybody else in that group. It's not like someone who was completely, standoffish for the entire movie.
She's a people person for sure. So
yeah.
So the next day we're introduced to Barbara and Minerva, Kristen Wiig. She's like comically power walking, just on that bridge across the Potomac on her way to work at the Smithsonian. And it's just right here I wrote that already I can tell that we're in for another version of that trope that we've seen in a lot of these movies where it's like it's the super awkward / put upon nerdy person who turned into a villain, kind of like Jamie Foxx's Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, or Selena Kyle from Batman Returns, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. It's just like it's almost over the top, like to the point where it's like I almost felt like Kristen Wiig was still in SNL mode at this point, where it's like she's so incredibly like awkward and put upon, that like nobody wants to talk to her. I'm like, really, nobody's nice to this woman? Like, I don't know.
Right.
I was just saying especially in the 80s and 90s, definitely everybody had stereotypes, and that was a very common thing of people being, again, segregated by stereotype, and you kind of make fun
I just
of
love how
whatever.
Like, her big like changing character trait is like once she took off those glasses, then everyone was super into her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then again, we're in the same universe as Clark Kent, so I guess that plays. I don't know.
But that is a common trope, Somebody with the glasses, they take the glasses off. It
also kind of reminded me of like Jim Carrey's Riddler and Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy, kind of in that vein.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I thought the same thing that you said, Jack, in terms of like SNL mode when Barbara and Diana sat down and had lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Like that lunch scene was very reminiscent of like a character that Kristen Wiig would have done on SNL.
Yeah, like Penelope or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The one-upper.
I mean, I didn't mind it so much. I mean, like, I think she did a pretty good job with doing that because, you can, it's literally like for anybody, it's always a matter of confidence, right? So like, it wasn't just taking off the glasses, but it's like all of a sudden you can start to see that like she's starting to straighten up her posture. She's starting to like be more bold and be more confident. And that it's kind of weird. Confidence in yourself or just having confidence for anybody, it does change. It does change your appearance and how you do things and stuff like that. So
100%. I just felt like these opening scenes, were a little bit bordering on being a little too comical for my taste. That's just me though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Diana meets Barbara, and of course Barbara just dials up the awkwardness, almost like immediately asking if she wants to go to lunch. And for a second there, I almost thought like they were playing it like Barbara was like romantically attracted to Diana, but that didn't end up being the case. Her boss barely acknowledges her, and other guys won't talk to her, and this and that. And Diana is at least being nice to her and genuinely making an effort to be friends, which is nice. Their boss does come up to them at some point and asks Barbara to help in the FBI investigation of the jewelry heist that we saw at the mall earlier. So it's a nice bit of connection to the mall scene. Later, we see Barbara in her lab going over some of the stolen items from the jewelry store heist, where Diana walks in and joins her, and they kind of talk shop for a bit, talking about historical artifacts, and Diana really impresses Barbara with her knowledge and expertise, and they suddenly find this object, which we later find out is the Dreamstone. And originally,
the MacGuffin.
Yes, the MacGuffin of all MacGuffins, the most MacGuffin-y MacGuffin you've ever seen. Yeah, so we see what we later find out is the Dreamstone. Originally, Barbara doesn't think very much of it because of the type of stone that it's made out of. Be like, oh, this isn't all that expensive of a material. Why would they steal this? Then Diana translate the Latin inscription. I did like the one line where she says that, like, she tries to cover for herself. Oh yeah, languages are a hobby of mine. I'm like, who learns like every language known to man as a hobby? That's like an intensive thing to do. Unless you're just like super gifted and just can remember stuff instantly, in which case, like, that's amazing. Yeah, I just thought that was a funny line. Yeah, it translates to place upon the object held but one great wish. So it's kind of like, okay, everyone gets one wish. Which later that kind of gets played around with to a confusing degree, and like you guys mentioned, the rules that they're trying to set up, it becomes very confusing later.
Yeah, well, Barbara clearly gets two, because Barbara gets one when she wishes on the Dreamstone, and then Max grants her one.
Yeah, because I guess like at that point he is the Dreamstone or took something from somebody else. It's very strange. So, but once they first discover the Dreamstone, this one random scientist walks by. He touches it for a second and sort of jokingly wishes for another coffee. And almost immediately, an intern walks in delivering an extra coffee, which he takes. And I wrote this down here specifically in my notes, like, I immediately sense what's going on here and how this will be a plot device, and I start to get this sinking feeling. Like, oh boy, this is what this movie is going to be about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, go ahead. Yep, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, I wish like that guy would have been in like every DC movie, like just a little, like, you know, like a through character, like that little guy shows up in everything.
He's their Stan Lee.
That moment was perfect. Wish I had a coffee, and hey, I got an extra, and he's just like, "Will you look at that?" I was like, "Put him in all the DC movies, just like 10 seconds."
Yeah, I mean, I think as Kevin Smith put it in his review, he's like, "Oh, they're doing a movie about a magic wishing rock. That's your big plot device. Like, I don't know about this."
So, you know, through this movie, you know, especially as we learned that, like, oh, when you make a wish, it's like the cat's paw. There's something that
the monkey's paw
gets, or the monkey's paw. Sorry, there's something else that it's gonna take from you or whatever. And I guess for that guy, it was a matter of when he got his coffee, he drank it and it was like piping hot. So I guess that was
he burned his tongue.
Yeah,
that was the price that he paid.
Punishment. I think so.
Sure.
I guess it's, you know, small wish, small price to pay. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a low stakes wish. So that tracks. Why not?
That guy used his one wish on a cup of coffee. Sure. You know what though? I get it.
Hey, you know, sometimes you need an extra pick me up in the morning. Am I right?
How does, if everyone had to rescind their wish though, how does he rescind that?
That's a good point. Oh my God.
Maybe his tongue was permanently burned for just like a little bit or a little bit of his tongue. And now it's healed.
And he later sued McDonald's for some reason. I renounce my wish of that coffee I had 2 weeks ago. It really didn't agree with me. They said it was decaf, and I was up all night.
They should have showed him renouncing his wish. That would have been great.
That would have been great. I really take that back.
Him just standing at like a bathroom mirror, eyes wide awake. I renounce my wish.
Oh, I can finally get some sleep now. Dude, I had that coffee and a bran muffin. I was constipated for hours. It was terrible.
He was renouncing it way back then. He didn't have
God.
to wait.
I immediately regret this decision.
He already knew. He already knew something was up.
Yeah.
He renounced it.
I immediately want this. I'm with you on that, Jim. I want this guy in every DC movie from here on out.
Yeah.
Drinking coffee, preferably.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so
like, was there, how, like, when they made that wish, like, all of a sudden, like, you get, like, a little blast of wind. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, there would be, like, a little, like, something magical would happen, like a gust of wind or something.
I guess no one really,
to indicate that a wish had taken place.
Yeah, I guess that was okay with everybody standing inside, like, all of a sudden get, like, a gust of wind in their face.
No one questioned that at all.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, well,
Yeah.
just a gust of wind. Oh, that was weird. Although to be fair, like if you're busy working, you probably wouldn't think about it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, back at Diana's apartment, Steve's watch symbolically starts to tick again. And so Diana, because that was right around when Diana held it, and you could tell that she was secretly wishing that Steve was back. And so she later offers to get an early dinner with Barbara, which was pretty nice. And later you see them at the restaurant, and the two girls are there. They're having a good time, just really striking up a nice friendship. And Diana, just kind of to what we talked about earlier, says that she doesn't really get out that much either. Which I guess it kind of makes sense, because I wrote down here, it must be really hard for someone like her to kind of go out and make friends in the mortal world, knowing and forming attachments, knowing that you're going to outlive everybody. Like, I guess that has to mess with your head a little bit. So I kind of take back what I said earlier about her kind of being isolated, But I mean, this was a nice scene. You kind of saw the characters really striking up a friendship. A lot of good character insight to both of them here. And
do you think, though? I mean, I get what you're saying, Jack, about it must be difficult in terms of forming attachments. But although I did think that, and Diana acts this way to a couple of characters, like does herself seem very standoffish, like in terms of her characterization, how it's different from the first movie. Like she almost seems at times annoyed by Barbara. I mean, she's nice to her, not to the extent where Barbara would ever sense it. We see it as the audience,
right?
But I did think at some points she was, like definitely keeping Barbara at arm's length.
Yeah, I think it came off that way, and it seemed like her character wasn't intending for that to be the case, but that's how Barbara took it, and that later informed some of the decisions that Barbara made later on. But yeah, that's a good point there. But they even talk about having been in love, and Diana still talks about Steve very fondly.
I'm gonna say Barbara, that line where they're talking about being in love, and Kristen Wiig says, all the time. I love that.
Yeah.
That was really good, really funny. Yeah. Her delivery of it.
Yeah.
Because you could just tell the type of person it is. She meets somebody, she falls in love, whether it's a best friend or romantic. She's like all in right away. It totally informs her character.
It tracks.
I thought it was great.
So
that was a great line.
Later that night, Barbara is walking home, and she sees this homeless person. We learn his name is Leon. Sort of this kindly older homeless gentleman with whom she's friendly, and she gives him some food. And I was wondering if that was like almost an 80s thing, because it reminds me of like this one scene from Back to the Future where Marty McFly runs into this homeless guy and it says, "Oh, Red, what are you doing here?" I'm like, was that a thing in the 80s where people just made friends with hobos on the street? Like, I didn't know.
Hey, Red used to be the mayor.
Really?
Right? In Back to the Future, wasn't Red the mayor?
Oh my God! Like, why did I never connect those dots?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's an 80s thing. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. They didn't seem all that weird to me, but
No, I just, yeah, why? I've been seeing Back to the Future my whole life. I never connected that Red, the homeless guy, was the former mayor of Hill Valley. Who knows?
Well, if I'm wrong,
W-
I'm sure there'll be somebody on the internet who will call me out on
How
it.
dare,
yeah.
how dare you?
Cancel.
We'll save that for our Back to the Future deep dive. But yeah, so
Love
Barbara
that
later
movie, by the way.
later she gets harassed and accosted by this obnoxious drunk guy who's eventually putting his hands on her. Really really scary stuff. And thankfully Diana shows up and lays him out, which was great. You know, she managed to take this guy out and just kind of had a good cover. Like, oh yeah, you just use his momentum against him. I thought it was like a, you know, kind of a funny way how she covered up her powers in front of Barbara. Only problem I have with this scene is how quickly Diana leaves after all this. You would think, like, you know, she just had dinner with this woman. She's a friend of hers from work. She doesn't at least offer to walk Barbara back home at night. You know what I mean? Like, she just kind of leaves after taking this.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, go home, Barbara. It's late, and then she just pieces out.
Yeah, I thought it was odd. I thought it was odd too that she was just there, was in time to save her, and then was gone again right away.
Right, like not even offering to walk her home. I don't know. That just
I wonder
seems-
if that was more though in terms of her character to you know to build more of that. She's standoffish. She doesn't want to get close. She doesn't want to get attached to anybody anymore after you know the events of the first movie.
I mean, maybe. I guess. Makes me wonder if she was like following Barbara or like I don't know. That's kind of a weird beat, but good thing she was there. So later on, Barbara ends up going back to the office. She touches the Dreamstone and she wishes to be like Diana, to have her confidence, her strength, and all these qualities, her attractiveness, all that stuff. So the next day, Barbara, I guess she just like fell asleep right there in the office. So she wakes up in her office the next morning. Doesn't appear to be any like too many overt like physical changes. She just kind of straightens her hair a bit, you know, changes out of the baggy skirt, wears some high heels, and is apparently like significantly less clumsy now. Like she avoids like the spilled water gag that was there by the janitor. She walks into the lab and just is immediately noticed and complimented by Jake, the other guy who wouldn't give her the time of day yesterday. So
Right.
yeah, there's to your point, John, about her having confidence. She's suddenly immediately attractive and giving off pheromones to these guys,
Well,
like Poison Ivy
that's a
style.
real thing. I'm telling you, that's a real thing.
I guess.
Just by how somebody holds themselves up and how they portray themselves it's a real thing.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
I mean,
This was instant. It happened right away. So.
I
So
understand
yeah,
your point.
so Barbara's boss
Yeah.
walks in and introduces her to Maxwell Lord, who apparently, according to him, is making this massive donation in order to partner with the Smithsonian. And Barbara's immediately attracted to Max. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, rich, handsome, charismatic. You know, he flirts, and he starts
does the line.
flirting
He
with
does the
her.
line.
Yeah, it's good, but it can be better. Yeah.
Like, it's good. Yeah.
So I notice he starts flirting with her so he can get to the Dreamstone. Like he's there, he has a purpose. He knows the Dreamstone is there, so he kind of, you know, tries to seduce her a little bit. And Pedro Pascal gives Max Lord like a bit of an accent, bit of like a Latino accent, which I thought was an interesting choice. You know, I mean, we later learned that, you know, his name is like Maxwell Lorenzano or something. So he has, you know, they really kind of lean into the ethnicity a little bit, but interesting choice. I don't think Pedro Pascal has that strong of an accent. I think he's from Chile originally, but I don't know.
He's got a little bit of it. He's got an accent.
A little bit. I mean, he doesn't really have it, obviously, when he's in The Mandalorian, but just something I noticed right away. Diana walks into work and just immediately notices Barbara and Max just laughing, hitting it off right away. Barbara introduces Diana to Max, and Diana has not heard of him because she doesn't own a TV. She's visibly like unimpressed and kind of like cold and rude to him right away. You know, without real
Yeah.
again, going back to your point, Jim, about her being standoffish, but like, yeah, she just I guess like she suspects right away that he's up to something. Yeah, as he invites both Diana and Barbara to the gala that he's throwing at the Smithsonian that night, which makes me wonder like how quickly did he plan and announce that this event is happening in that very same night? Like that seems like something they probably would have known about.
Yeah. I thought the same thing when that happened. It's like, man, they put this thing together very quickly.
Like they really organized that event really quickly. Like,
Yeah.
by the way, I'm throwing a gala right there that same night at the same building. Like there would have had to be some planning involved.
Yeah. I just can't remember. Did they ever establish like how he knew about the Dreamstone?
They really didn't indicate it, but I guess like one of his, I guess he must have been like following like these fables, or must have been like very interested in all this stuff for some reason ever since he was young. They didn't really communicate how or why that was the case, but he apparently knew about it, and I guess got a fix that the Dreamstone was there. I don't know if he was behind the robbery. They never really come out and say that, but I mean, it seems like something he would be into.
The only thing we ever see is like in his office is like, paperwork and drawings of whatever that can make him rich, and then somehow the Dreamstone is like
that came on his radar somehow.
Yeah,
and so I guess maybe he follows like ancient myths and fables and stuff, and maybe that's how he got into it. I don't know.
Yeah, but see, those little details, like that would have been great if he was behind the bank heist. And then because they
never really indicate whether he was or not.
I'm saying though, if they had indicated it, like that would have been a really cool detail to throw in there. It would have made for a more cohesive story. Like that's good character building.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like right now they went from Maximilian or Max Lord. What's his name?
Max Lord.
Max Lord.
Max Lord is like this guy who's kind of a shyster. He's taking people's money. He just wants his son to be proud of him. All of a sudden, bam, he's at the Smithsonian, and now he's having a party that night. Like there's missing details. It's not a cohesive transition. But like that would have been great. Oh man, she foiled my plans. We couldn't get the stone. Now I've got to go there and get it. Like little details.
Yeah. Otherwise, how would he have known that it was at the Smithsonian?
Yeah.
So we cut to Max entering his office, the Black Gold Cooperative office building. He asks his front desk secretary for his supplements when he enters, which I just assumed was cocaine right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of tracks with the time period. But like he doesn't look like he's well. So it's like I don't know like what kind of medication he's taking, or in fact I don't even remember what that ended up being, like some sort of vitamin thing. But in the elevator, he looks at a magazine with this wealthy Egyptian oil businessman, while I guess also holding a couple of like notices of unpaid bills from his mail. So despite all of his appearances, Maxwell Lord's business is apparently struggling to make ends meet, despite how he portrays himself. So like the interior of the office is definitely in shambles, as we see his secretary, Raquel, I believe was the character's name, they later said. She reveals to him that his young son, Alistair, is visiting him for the weekend. He lives with his mom. And Max clearly loves his son. That's which I thought was a nice character beat, like sort of made him a little more three-dimensional. Like he's clearly like he wants to spend time with his kid, even though he and the mom aren't together. But he's obsessed with projecting this image of financial success and wealth, and is promising to provide all these things for his son, and with all this money and that he doesn't have, and these gifts that he can't yet afford. And sort of like Barbara, he's insecure, but just shows it in a different way. So, which I thought was interesting. And Max is confronted by one of his investors, Simon Stagg, who is another DC Comics character, sort of a more obscure character. I forget. I think, according to my notes, I guess he's mainly the nemesis of Metamorpho, who's like sort of a C-list, D-list DC character, like much deeper cuts. But yeah, he's Metamorpho's big rival and arch nemesis. So we see Simon Stagg, in this movie, and Stagg is furious at Max. He wants out of their relationship. He found out that Max doesn't really own any oil businesses and that he's running a big Ponzi scheme. So Max tries to convince Simon to stay, but Simon Stagg wants none of it. He demands his money back before he heads out, and he's threatening to report Max, I guess maybe to the Better Business Bureau. Max is visibly embarrassed in front of his son. And so we find out a little bit more about Max's motivation there. Later at the Smithsonian, Diana is going through some of the items from the jewelry store heist and sees some receipts with Max's name on them, seemingly confirming some suspicions that she has about him. So I guess maybe that might be the little detail that links Max to the robberies, or that he tried to purchase some of these items, but.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that, but I guess that is the one connection where it seems that he is somehow involved in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's supposed to be the smoking gun that leads him to it, but it wasn't. It was such a quick shot.
Easily missed. Yeah.
But at a department store, we see Barbara trying on these new outfits and shoes, and just immediately, like you said, John, she's just more confident and more attractive, and just turning heads everywhere she goes. So later that night at the gala, Diana appears in this white dress, and just every man in the room is turning their heads toward her to just an over-the-top degree. I get that she's a gorgeous woman, but it's just so not subtle. They're like, whoa, who is this woman? Come on, dude. I get it that she's gorgeous, but that was a bit much to me.
It's set in the 80s. You don't have to shoot it like it's an 80s beer commercial.
Yeah. I thought that she was going to grab a stick of juicy fruit and start skiing or something. I don't know. It's just over the top, eyes bulging out, whoa, who is this chick? There are 50 women in that room at least. So it's I don't know. The song that was playing, I found out, was a song called "Welcome to the Pleasure Dome" by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So at least, if you're going to set it in the 80s, have a few needle drops in there. Have some.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have leaned into that a little bit more. Had some more 80s tunes throughout the movie. I know in the trailer they had Blue Monday. That was pretty cool to hear. So Barbara walks in, and not only does she get the same reaction, but the crowd visibly parted when she walked through. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're just getting into Looney Tunes land here. What is that? So everyone is just fawning over Barbara, just losing their minds. But she finally meets with Max, and then some semi-awkward flirting ensues. Max suggests that they go into her office, where they, once they get there, they start making out. Things are moving pretty fast in that department. And clearly he's seducing her just to find the Dreamstone. And, he talks Barbara into letting him borrow it at one point, which goes with her character. She falls hard for when, she finds someone she's attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
So back at the party, Diana is still just being fawned over by random dudes when she gets approached by this guy Carl, who's, I guess, a guy that she knew from work, or I guess I wasn't sure what the connection to this guy Carl was, but he just mentions that it's I'm now working at the White House, and he was trying to help her get a job there. He's like, hey, if you want, I could put your name in, but she ends up being distracted, and she kind of blows him off.
Yeah.
The guy that she runs into later. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of an odd bit of exposition there.
Steve Trevor's body.
We're about to get to him, but
okay.
But yeah, after she's Diana's searching around for something, even I don't know if it's the Dreamstone or what, but she's looking around, and she gets approached by this strange guy who seems to know her, and then starts to sound like Steve Trevor. And at first she doesn't recognize him because he's just some random dude, but then she later kind of blinks and sees that Steve has returned, albeit possessing another man's body. But apparently, only Diana can see Steve. Now
he does his line. He does.
Yeah. I wish we had
the
more
last
time.
line that he had. What's that?
Yeah, I wish we had more time.
Yeah. I can save today, but you can save the world or something like that.
Yeah, which is a cool
And
callback for sure.
and he does the whole watch in the hand thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of trying to reconfirm, like, hey, this isn't just one little thing. This is actually me. And I thought that shot was actually pretty cool because it's
Yeah, where it like panned around and then it showed.
It's panning around her 360, and it shows Carl, well, not Carl, but the guy, and then as it goes around to the other side, her point of view again, it's Steve Trevor. I thought that shot was pretty cool because what I learned was it was an actual continuous shot. They didn't edit it.
No kidding.
Yeah, and if you go back on it, there is one part of the shot where the guy does come out of frame, but for just a quick second. So that means they had to do the switch. Like the guy, was it Chris Pine and the other actor? They actually had to do a switch.
Oh, did they really? Oh, okay. I thought they might have done some CG magic there.
Yeah, no, they had to do a switch during that scene, and what sells it during that is when that body comes like out of the shot, it's a focus on Diana's face looking at him, and her eye line, like the way she's looking, you can easily be distracted because you've got two people switching in front of you, but she never gets distracted. So that's what helps to sell the scene of like it's like one continuous shot, even though. And yeah, you'd think like it was kind of like they spliced it, but they didn't. They just did a cool way of doing a body switch.
Nice. Good technical note there, John. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like, I have no problem with them bringing Steve back for this movie, but it's just, I mean, why do the Freaky Friday body switch thing and just. Like, why not just have him show up because of the wish? I don't know. It's just it was such a bizarre choice that they made for it, and becomes almost a little bit problematic as we'll get into a little bit later.
I don't know how they wrote the whole movie. Did they like write one section and film it, and then write the other section?
It really seemed like really seemed like they were making things up as they went along. At times.
Well, I mean, they are. any work of fiction, you're making things up as you go along. But like, I just don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why they did that. Like, because clearly, with some of the, like I said, some of the powers they gave the Dream Stone, why Steve Trevor just couldn't be back. Because if they just did it to have that call back with Steve's line, or so they could have the moment at the end with the, when after Steve's gone. I don't know. To me, that doesn't seem like it added a lot to it.
It's a long way to go for those gags.
I mean,
but even like you can still have the same effects of Steve being gone, because just like, he would just dematerialize, right? Like she renounces, and then he would just be gone.
I mean,
look, it have the same effect.
Yeah, I mean, in a movie where you have a magic wishing rock, like why do we need to add that layer to it?
Yeah. We created all these other things, but we got a quantum leap Steve Trevor into
pull the Scott Bakula and just shows up in this other dude's body.
Yeah, this guy who I think is pretty sure been in a couple of Hallmark movies this season.
Yeah, I looked up. He definitely has.
Has he really?
Yeah.
I was trying to look him up now to confirm.
I forget the actor's name, but yeah, he's definitely a Hallmark. We need a handsome dude here on set. Here he is.
Oh, this becomes the moral. To me, there's a moral dilemma here. Like, I mean, Diana is obviously knows this guy's body is being taken over, like against his will. So, but obviously
she doesn't seem all that bothered by it.
She gets a chance to be, to go back in the sack with her loved one here.
Yeah,
so
which they do.
She obviously does not care. I mean, a little bit of a moral dilemma there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so later we see Diana and Steve walking near the Lincoln Memorial by the reflecting pool, and just a really nice conversation they're having. Steve sort of implies that maybe he was in heaven, but doesn't seem to like remember or exactly articulate what state his soul was in after his death.
He just says he didn't know. Doesn't he?
Sure.
He just says, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
that's the easy
nice
answer.
Yeah, it's a nice way it's a nice way of getting around all those questions. But
yeah.
I gotta say, like, Chris Pine does a great job here with just being, sort of with the role reversal, with the being the fish out of water, and just being in awe of 1984 technology and all the advances in the technology since his time. And one of the things I love the most about this movie is seeing Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. Their chemistry. Like, there's undeniable chemistry there, and the stuff with them in the movie, I think, is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Like, they really work well together.
Yeah.
So they return back to the apartment of the guy whose body Steve has taken control of. So I had a note here. It says there doesn't seem to be much concern about him literally taking over someone else's entire life. Like, I'm assuming, who knows? We don't know if this guy has a family. Like, we don't know what his deal is. But I did like the line that Steve said about the phone book being future proof. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was pretty.
I like that.
At least at that time.
Yeah. I mean, by that time, the phone book was still very much a thing. But I guess he's pretty lucky that Diana kept using the name Diana Prince and happened to be listed. Kind of good thing that she kept the same name from 1918 and also listed herself in the phone book, which, hey, whatever.
I mean, she's got to be listed in the phone book, though. I mean, she's right. Like,
well, I mean,
I don't
not
think
necessarily
that was a voluntary thing anymore.
Well, I mean, I think back then you could choose not to be listed in the phone book. I think in the white pages. I think that was
in the 80s.
I don't know.
I think so.
Could you opt out of it?
I mean,
I know eventually they created opt-outs, I feel like, but I don't know. Yeah, I, mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to ask our parents about that one.
We got a phone book delivered this week.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I don't. They just dropped it off, and I'm like, I haven't seen a phone book. My 8-year-old asked what it was. She goes, what is this? I said, it's a phone book. It's got numbers in it. I said, when I was 8 and you wanted to look up somebody's number, you had to go to the phone book. It had businesses and had white pages, which was everybody in the town. I said, we didn't have a smartphone or the internet. And she goes, man, that'd sound rough back then.
It was, honey. It was.
I reenacted the scene from Last Crusade where the guy chooses poorly and just ages quickly.
Yes.
That's what my insides felt like.
Exactly. She's not wrong.
Anyways, so he was able to find her.
Mm-hmm. And back at Max's office, Max has the Dreamstone that he borrowed from Barbara, and he wishes to be the Dreamstone. So clearly he's had a plan to get this thing for a while.
For a while. He obviously knew about it. I mean, he had drawings of
he's
this
put some
thing,
thought
so
into
he knew
this.
it. Yeah.
How he found out about this, I don't recall, but his plan to actually be the Dreamstone or the personification thereof, clearly that's something he's given a lot of thought to. Like there's a method to what he's doing there. So Barbara wakes up the next morning in her apartment and accidentally rips the refrigerator door off its hinges. So clearly she's unknowingly received Diana's powers and abilities as well as part of her wish. And honestly, this is a really good premise for the plot. Like, truthfully, I felt like they could have left out a lot of the Max Lord stuff and focused more on Barbara and Cheetah and sort of the effects of the Dreamstone for this isolated incident, rather than all this like the global stuff that Max Lord was trying to do.
That's it. Yeah. That's what I was hoping for. I was really hoping that in this movie, they would stay away from some type of global catastrophe where she has to fix something and just make it a little bit more of a tighter movie where
more personal stakes as opposed to global.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, as much as I like some of the Max Lord stuff, we don't know. We don't know why he knows about the Dreamstone. We don't know how he knows that he can become the Dreamstone. I also didn't quite understand, like, he gets weaker but also more powerful with every, like, wish he grants.
Yeah,
like
it takes a toll on his health at one point.
But I don't know why it's building in such a way. I don't know what it's, building towards. And I understand the superhero movies. We try to jam in as much as we can, like 2 or 3 villains or whatnot. But a movie on a smaller scale that would have been just focused on Diana and Barbara, and I think might have been like John said, might have been a tighter movie. Might have been
100%.
Yeah. So.
All right. So here's the part that I alluded to earlier. The next day, Diana wakes up after what we can assume she had sex with Steve, who is in another man's body. Now, this to me just raises...
Assume? Without a doubt, my friend.
I mean, they didn't show it, but obviously we know what happened.
Well, it's not...
This just raises a whole string of ethical questions as far as... Did she, like, low-key rape this dude that Steve took over?
She did. Yeah.
Like,
I mean...
Would this technically be... Jim, you're a lawyer here, so you'll have to get back with him on this one. Would this technically be considered rape or sexual assault of some sort?
I mean, it's another. It's odd because it's done differently. It's not like this situation is new to comic books, and it's been done before, and it's been much more problematic. There's a famous, not to get too nerdy, but there's a pretty well known comic book. I think it's not Amazing Spider-Man. It might be Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock is in Peter Parker's body and I think has sex with Mary Jane, where it's much clearer because
that's terrible.
It's much clearer a situation of rape because Mary Jane thinks it's Peter Parker. This is a little different because even though somebody else is in someone else's body and that person is also in someone else's body.
It's a lot like Lewis and Betty at the end of Revenge of the Nerds.
Both of the consciousness in terms of the people know who they are. So there's been similar things in comic books with that area, which I think has been a much more clear cut. This is a problem. One party, it thinks it's somebody physically and it's not.
Listen, it was one person's wish, and he had no choice. And she
there's some gray areas, I'm sure, but like,
another reason they just should have made it. They just should have brought Steve Trevor back.
Yes,
just had him be.
We could avoid this whole situation.
So I guess they. I read somewhere. I mean, I actually have not seen this movie, but I read somewhere they kind of took inspiration from the movie Big with Tom Hanks.
Oh my God, you've never seen Big?
I've never seen it, and that was that made in the 80s?
It was.
Was that
yes.
or
somewhere between 88 and 90, I'd say.
Yeah, and so
doesn't he have sex with a grown woman in that movie?
Yes,
and he's technically a child.
Josh McAllister,
and he's technically a child.
Elizabeth,
so I think that's what happens.
Good times.
Well, that's what I read. They kind of took it from that movie, and it was set in the 80s, and I don't know if that's how you're supposed to accept it. I don't know.
If they wanted to take inspiration from like an 80s movie, it should have been like one of the opening scene of Terminator, and Steve Trevor just should have showed up in the downtown DC naked, and then had to go into a department store, and then we could have seen him getting dressed montage.
I agree.
That was one way to do it. I'm sure maybe Pine had that in his contract. He's like, look, I was already naked in the first movie. I'm not doing it again.
I agree.
But it's just in a way, like knowing that she like technically sort of had sex with this strange dude without his knowledge or consent. Again, like we mentioned, it makes the whole Steve plot about him just completely bonkers. I do love the bit about like Steve eating Pop-Tarts. Like clearly he loves being in the future, and why wouldn't he at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pop-Tarts and fanny packs.
Right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
No matter what outfit he tried on, he always had the fanny pack.
Yeah.
I thought I'd wear any of those right now. I thought Chris Pine looked great in every 1984 outfit. Like, I don't know how he does it. Like, it was sleeveless, a fanny pack, and I'm like, God damn, that man looks good.
Right? If this was set in the 90s,
parachute.
he'd probably have a fanny pack and Zubaz pants.
I don't know, the parachute pants, I don't know if I could wear those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. The parachute pants are a little much.
I do like how Diana has like this moment of clarity at the end of it, saying like, okay, you know what? I'd love to stay here and hang out with you, but we should probably go back to my work so I can see how a stone brought back my dead boyfriend in someone else's body.
Yeah. Setting forth the problem plainly, I thought was good. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
So at the gym, we see Barbara going to work out, and typical 80s gym. Like, I'm surprised they didn't have Eye of the Tiger playing over the loudspeaker. That would have been a perfect moment for that. I mean, yes. Eye of the Tiger, Cheetah, I don't know. But she walks in the scene in this leotard, like looking like she's off the set of Glow, and I gotta say, man, like that was a good look for the ladies back then. I'm thinking we need I think we need to bring that back in gyms nowadays. The leotard look. I don't know. I don't hate it. I'm just saying.
So she figures out she's able to, figured out she's got superpowers.
She figures out super strength to everyone's amazement. I also wrote in here, Barbara's outfit there almost kind of reminds me of another SNL Kristen Wiig character, Triangle Sally.
I don't know if I know that one.
Anyone? Triangle Sally? No.
No, what's that one?
It completely took everyone out of this podcast and just unsubscribed immediately. People are
we
just
don't know what Jack's talking about.
No.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure I've seen it. I'm sure I've seen
the rails. But yeah, so later we see Simon Stagg's office, and Max shows up and tricks Simon Stagg into wishing that black gold would change the world for all of us, and somehow that allows Max to take control of all Simon Stagg's shares. And so as Max leaves the building, federal agents immediately show up with a warrant to arrest Simon Stagg for tax evasion. So, yeah.
Right. Wait. What did he wish? No, what was his? You have the quote of his exact wish?
I didn't write down the quote, but he's like,
oh, okay.
But he's like, okay, Simon, I wish that this company could work for all of us, and some wish I had the power to do all this stuff. It's like, don't you? And he tricks Simon into saying that, and
yeah.
And the Dreamstone takes effect really fast because all of a sudden those federal agents show up there, and even they seem to be confused about, like, hey, wasn't I just at a different place a second ago? But But then we see the funny montage of Steve trying out all the fashion of the day, which a bit cliche, but it was adorable. I mean, Chris Pine played it perfectly, and his reaction is like, who would wear this?
Well, they had to do. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're since he was fish out of water, they had to mirror a little bit of the first movie with her, trying out.
Good pull. That's right. That's right. She was trying out the fashions of that time.
Yeah, that's why they put that in there, because since they're flipping the script, they got to pull a little bit of the first movie, but for him.
That's true.
I love the whole bit. I was like, parachute pants. Do people parachute a lot more now? That was great.
Yeah. With the Dreamstone, one of the things I was wondering is, at first I thought, that whole monkey's paw, that you make a wish, something bad happens. At first I thought, Max was kind of getting tricking people into making these wishes. He'd grab their hands or he'd touch them and go, I wish this. Don't you wish that too? Mm-hmm. But then as the movie went on, I guess I thought that Max was then directing, controlling the bad thing that was going to happen. Like he got Stag to make that wish, and then the FBI showed up. Like that just wasn't like a random thing.
Yeah.
Like was Max controlling the bad thing that happened after the person made the wish? Because then later on, we'll get to it with when he's in the foreign country. I can't remember the name of it, what country they used, but he says, don't you wish this? Don't you wish you could protect your people or whatever he said? And then he goes, I'm going to take your like security detail or whatnot. So then it seemed like he was controlling the bad.
They were definitely in Cairo. They were in Cairo.
Yeah, they were in Cairo.
Yeah.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah, there was also a reference to Bialia, which is a fictional country in DC Comics, which I thought was a cool little Easter egg.
I couldn't remember if they were actually in Egypt or if it was like, whenever in a comic book DC shows like a Middle Eastern country, it's always what's Black Adam's Kondak or
I don't know,
one of those.
Durkistan.
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it.
What was that? What is that from, real quick?
Team America. World Police.
Team America.
That's it. Team America. That's it.
Of course.
So wait. You're saying he was control. I'm trying to remember it myself. I only saw it once.
He gets to decide, since he's the Dreamstone and the Dreamstone takes something from you after granting your wish, he then has the power to decide what to take from you.
Okay.
When he tricked the president into wishing for more nukes, he took his political power to use the satellite to get the following,
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get that at first. I thought the bad consequence was still random.
Yeah.
But then,
and I think, and from what I'm gathering, when he's granting the wish, and then he's taking something from them, like the political power or whatever else, and then but he's also losing his health every time he's taking something back. Taking something. Is that right?
Yeah. Told what was it? Barbara? Barbara's her name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he told Barbara, I'm a generous guy, I'll give you the second wish for nothing. So I guess he's got the power to just grant the wish without taking something. And maybe it just takes a bigger toll on him.
Yeah, I mean, it makes about as much sense as anything else in this movie, which is not a lot.
It does, yeah.
Is a hell of a drug, more so than
it really is. It's true. They do have the nice montage of Steve, just kind of giving his reaction to, escalators and like punk rockers and the metro, the subway they use in DC, as well as like breakdancing, modern art, and even the trash can bit was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
But I mean, his genuine reaction to like the astronauts in the space shuttle, which was really, really cool. He played that just so perfectly and genuinely too. It was very earnest.
Again, the train scene was also a callback from the first movie. Because
that's true.
Because that's why all these scenes that you see there is just a mirror of the first movie of him being fished out of water. Because, there was a train. She's never seen a train in the first one. And it's like this locomotive thing. And now he's fished out of water. And now you got this electric, substation train type of deal for him. So
yeah, no, I love the role reversal in that.
Yeah, for sure.
So later in Max's office, his secretary, Raquel, she's overwhelmed because their phones are just ringing off the hook. He convinces her to wish for more help, and then suddenly new interviewees arrive, new prospective employees. Clearly, these people have no idea what black gold is, but they get hired on the spot. Max is super excited, but then he starts to show those signs of a headache. He asks for the vitamins again. As we mentioned, being the Dreamstone has some side effects. So back at the Smithsonian, Barbara is just holding court and just wowing everyone at the office with how awesome she is now. Apparently she no longer needs glasses because I guess, because the powers and,
she's hot now.
Yeah, she's super hot. Like, as soon as she lost those glasses,
her
man.
eyesight has gotten better.
Look out.
So I think that's
So
the eyesight.
Yeah, but so Diana and Steve walk in, and they ask Barbara privately about the stone, and Barbara reveals that she let Max borrow it. We see some tension and resentment sort of build from Barbara toward Diana for getting on her case. Later, we see Diana and Steve head off toward Max's office. They notice right away that something's off because, lines are wrapped around the block, countless cars and police and media are there. So they decide to sneak in and literally break in through the loading dock rather than, I guess, try to follow the crowd in. But inside the office, they observe several books and articles indicating that Max has been looking for the Dreamstone for a long time. And they even notice like sort of the dust, the residual like dust from the stone, as Diana recognizes one of the languages as the language of the gods, which I guess only she, can recognize. Most normal people wouldn't. So that's when she really starts to put two and two together. So Diana calls Barbara from the office, asking her to research where the stone came from. And then Diana tells Steve that some of the gods were known for taking physical objects and imbuing them with powers and universal elements, sort of like the lasso of truth was the lasso of Hestia. So it's a little confusing just to kind of, but she sort of explains like, the secret behind the powers and whatnot. But she's not really sure what is powering the Dreamstone at this point. So Steve finds Max's receipt for a plane ticket to Cairo. Diana says that she can't get Steve on it because he doesn't have a passport. But then I'm thinking like, well, how does she know that the guy whose body he took over doesn't have a passport?
Yeah, because he doesn't look like Steve Trevor.
Right?
We only see Chris Pine because they want Chris Pine in the movie.
Right.
Like only Diana sees Chris Pine right there.
Right.
So, and when Steve says like, man, I'd love to fly a plane that could go to Cairo in one shot. Like we didn't have those back in the day. Then she gets an idea. Rather than, I don't know, buy a ticket or something to get him on a plane, they decide to break into the Smithsonian and break into a hangar, I guess, which is connected to the Air and Space Museum.
It was a pet peeve of mine on this.
Yeah, that whole thing about like stealing the jet, like really? Okay.
Well, first of all, they break into the Smithsonian to find a fully fueled
Yes. Yes, one with fuel. I was going to point that out earlier. I guess it's like in the Air and Space Museum in DC.
I've heard from many people that all the machinery at the Smithsonian is fueled up, ready to go.
Because you never know.
Moment's notice. In the back, they have a Saturn V rocket.
Yeah,
you can get to the moon, no problem.
If you ever need to get up there in a pinch, that's. You never know when these things are going to need to happen, but they also walk past an SR-71.
During that scene, I threw my hands up like, this is a museum. Like this is not. Yeah, there's no fuel in that. There's no fuel in there.
And she had credentials to get back in there. She's an anthropologist. Now, how she has clearance to get into that facility after hours is crazy enough. Let alone the fact that they somehow get keys to this jet. That also is completely fueled up, by the way. For all they know, those planes could have been hollowed out or decommissioned or whatever.
Yeah, they are hollowed out. They are.
Yeah.
They're
completely.
Yeah, they are hollowed out for sure.
And,
but I will say there are no keys to a jet. It is a matter of pressing buttons and knowing your levers and whatnot. I will say there's no way he was flying a single single-seater propeller plane back in World War I. That's what he was flying.
Somehow he's able to figure out how to fly a modern jet plane, which...
he can fly it, but he can't start. There's no way you could get this thing started.
Yeah.
No way.
The flying's probably not the hard part. It's
he can
land.
Fair enough. I'm not a pilot. I don't know these things. So
he can fly.
If Nick Cage can steal the Declaration of Independence, Steve Trevor can steal a jet from the Smithsonian.
All right. I like that. Just real quick.
Yeah.
The reason why I know a little bit more on this is because my dream was to be a fighter pilot. So I know a lot about planes, and I was really close to following that track. So I know a little bit more about planes. But so for me, I remember when they got in it, and I was like, "There's no way he's gonna start this thing." But he starts it. I'm like, "Okay, forget that. All right, I'll forget that." But there's no way they're flying this thing to Cairo. and they flew it to Cairo.
They
And
did.
it's like you can't. There's no that those jets will not make it to Cairo. They just will. They won't.
And I guess they got back. They would have had to fly
Well, they
back
never-
too.
I don't know. I don't think they flew it back. I don't know if they flew it back or not.
I mean, I don't know how else they would have gotten back. I mean, they would have had to fuel
But
that
anyways,
up while they were over there as well, probably.
There's no way you can make it in one shot. You'd have to have a refuel somewhere, if not twice refuel.
Sure.
And
Okay.
So anyway,
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things, man. This just keeps poking holes in it. I
these
appreciate
fighter
it.
jets, these fighter jets last like 3 hours up in the air. They don't last very long. They
Right.
eat fuel. They eat
Yeah, they're not meant for long range travel.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's why you see them on aircraft. Aircraft carriers.
There you go. Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Once the air traffic control finds out that the jet is on the runway, the alarm blares, which of course it would. And Steve thinks, he can outfly security, but Diana lets him know, hey, radar's a thing now. Technology won't, they'll be able to track us. But then she suddenly remembers the technique that Zeus used to hide Themyscira, that she's been trying to learn over the years. Which I actually appreciated that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense that she would have learned a few things in the last 66 years. That kind of explains how I forgot that Zeus was responsible for hiding Themyscira, Paradise Island, from the rest of man's world. So it makes sense that she would have learned that technique, and that's how she turned the jet into the invisible jet, which I thought was cool. Okay, that kind of explains, because I knew the invisible jet was always a thing in Wonder Woman lore. But I didn't really understand how it worked. But it was a nice nod to that.
I'm curious what
a very
everybody's
clunky way to get there, mind you, but still a cool moment.
What did the rest of you guys think of that scene?
I thought it was incredibly silly, and it was too silly for me. I'm like, yeah, use that lasso, ride that lightning bolt, fine, but I always thought the invisible jet was silly, mostly because in the older comic books, it's just, hey, look, there's this Wonder Woman in a seated position.
Yes. Yeah, in the old Super Friends cartoons.
Look, when you I think a majority of people, when you talk about superpowers, they say flight. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? It would be flight, and flight's the worst one because there's nothing else you can do but fly. Once you get to where you're going, you can't do anything else. And I mean, Christopher Reeve did it.
You could fly away
best.
from where you go.
That's true. And then you can go back. Christopher Reeve did it the best, but nobody looks cool flying. It just, you especially don't look cool in a seated position in your invisible jet. I just thought it seemed to come out of nowhere.
Thankfully they didn't do it quite like that. That would have been even more ridiculous.
Yeah, that
even for this movie. Yeah.
What did you? Go ahead.
The fireworks.
I was not a fan. Sorry.
Right. I mean, I thought it was a nice nod to the lore and just sort of an interesting way take on the invisible jet as a concept. Even the fireworks scene I thought was nice. Again, just a very clunky way to get there with him breaking in and stealing the jet.
Derek, what did you think?
Oh dear God. So it was strictly fan service just for the sake of fan service. It was
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not saving people. She doesn't have the sword and shield anymore. She's got the lasso, and that's cool whenever the hell she uses it, swinging from lightning bolts and stuff, which is equally ridiculous to me. But then all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I had trouble turning a coffee cup invisible, so now I'm going to try it on a jet, which is so much bigger and takes more effort. And she nails it first try, just totally out of left field.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then it's never used again. And you got to remember, this is 1984, so it's a prequel to Batman versus Superman, and it never comes up again. And it's just, oh, dude, you're destroying yourself with continuity.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: at the end of the movie, it's almost like she's flying anyway. Which again, I don't remember Wonder Woman flying outside of the invisible jet flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what the hell does she need with the invisible jet and the invisibility?
I don't know.
It was
I think it was always
unnecessary.
suggested that she can't necessarily fly as fast and as far as Superman or a
Yeah, yeah.
Kryptonian can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe
She
the
jumps
jet would be
long
for like
distances.
more long range trips. I guess that.
Yeah, that's definitely it. She definitely can't fly as fast. She was not flying super fast at all, and
I mean-
and most likely she'll get tired quick.
If she's not beating up bad guys, you got to give the fans something. So Invisible Jet was next up on the list. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
I did not like that Trevor was flying through the
The fireworks. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not safe.
First of all, he's a pilot, and
Yeah, he
it's
should
not
know
like
better.
It's not like fireworks are new to him. You know, the
Yeah.
fireworks they had him back in the 1700s. You know,
They sure did.
That's, so
The
they're
bombs
not
bursting in
new
the
to
air.
him.
oh my
Yeah,
God, PTSD on his part.
Right? Yeah, that's how he died.
Flares.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason why that scene is there is to have a theatrical spectacle moment,
Yeah,
like
it's a
where
trailer
he's,
moment.
you know, he got this
Trailer
colorful
moment.
background.
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely
So
right.
I hated that he flew a jet through these fireworks like that,
Mhm.
and especially him being a pilot. If he wasn't a pilot, maybe he didn't know, but he was a pilot, so there's no way he would do that. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
But thanks for your take, because I was actually curious what other people's reaction was, you know, like on the whole invisible jet thing. I'm a little bit of everybody on this one, where I'm like, I can appreciate it because I'm a fan, where I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, she's doing the invisible jet. But then I thought for a second, I stepped back and I'm like, man, they made that out of left field, and they
Yeah.
had to make it so convenient and so fast.
Yeah.
Like they had to do it so quick. So thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing on that.
If you wanted to impress me with like some Wonder Woman fan service, find a way for her to ride Jumpa, her kangaroo, from the comic book.
What?
Yeah.
She had a kangaroo in the comics?
Yes,
How did I not know
Jumpa.
about this?
Jumpa.
Oh my God.
Wow.
If there would have been a way for her to end up at the DC Zoo and end up on a kangaroo, then I would have been all in on it. I would have been, yes, this
Man,
is the best.
That's like up there with, you know, Crypto the super dog and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's
there's
awesome.
a whole treasure trove of DC superhero.
Is that
pets.
from the Super Friends cartoon? I don't know. Or
I mean, it might have been. It was originally in the comic books, I believe. She had Jumpa, just like Supergirl has Comet, and there's Ace the Bat Hound.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting into Silver Age territory now. Yeah.
So when they're on the plane traveling to Cairo, they have a conversation, and she mentions,
About
you know,
flying.
flight is something
So that does
haven't
pay off
able
later,
to-
at least, you know.
I haven't been able to conquer. And he's talking about, oh, it's just wind and air and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, did you guys, obviously, I don't know, for me, obviously, I'm thinking, well, they're setting it up so that way. Well, I'm thinking, are they setting it up to where she's going to fly in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And if I have not seen Batman v Superman, I would have thought, okay, they're setting it up for her to fly. But I've already seen Batman v Superman, and she can't fly in that movie.
Well,
And
I
so
mean,
I'm thinking,
we don't know that
there's
she
no
can't
way
fly,
they're
but
gonna-
she doesn't in that one. Like, she leaps a lot, and same thing
Yeah.
with Justice League. It's never really
Exactly. She never uses any flight whatsoever in any of those movies.
At the end of the first Wonder Woman movie, they see that flash forward to her in the present day, where she takes this big leap, and it looks like she's flying, you know, towards the end of that.
Yeah.
But she's not. It just seems like it. She's just got
It's
good hops.
left a little ambiguous, but I mean,
But
yeah, I mean that
it
is
just-
a good point. Like, why didn't she do it in those movies? So, yeah.
And they did say, and you know, like whatchamacallit, they did confirm. I mean, like it was Snyder confirmed that like
Mhm.
she doesn't have flight in this one. She can leap really far.
That's a big
so-
FU to Zach then, I guess.
So I mean, that's why I was like, oh, they're setting it up for flying. And I'm like,
Mhm.
but they didn't. She can't fly. And the other one, she never flew whatsoever. So anyway, and
Yep. No. Let's get back on track, though. Back to the lab. Barbara is reading through all this microfilm at incredibly fast speed. So I guess having Diana's powers must have increased her intelligence and her memory, maybe definitely altering her brain chemistry. So she's super focused. And this one FBI agent, brings her some more files. He playfully tries to hit on her. She shoots him down just right away, like not even messing around. Later Barbara starts running from the building, and literally every guy starts catcalling her, like including the drunk guy from the park. So it's like, again, it kind of goes back to the gala scene where it's like guys are just like literally partying. The room is partying when she walks in. Mm-hmm. But then she angrily stops and confronts the guy, recognizing that that's him. And when he makes a move on her, she just beats the crap out of him and almost kills him. And you can't blame her at that point because but then you see signs of her like really becoming unhinged at taking it too far. And I thought that was a really good scene that really like established her motives and also the dangers of what happens if she takes it too far, and really good character beat there. Then later in Cairo, Max meets Emir, this Egyptian oil tycoon, and Max tricks Emir into wishing for the return of his ancestral land, the Bialian dynasty, which I mentioned before. Bialia is a fictional country in the DC universe, so really cool little Easter egg there. So Emir's wish is granted, but somehow Max gets all his oil holdings in return. Like we said, the wishes come with a price. The rules aren't really clear, but even though Emir sold all his oil to the Saudis, Max somehow gets control of his security detail, and as this massive wall magically appears around certain parts of the city, indicating that was like his ancestral land. So meanwhile, Diana and Steve spot Max and his new henchman from this taxi, because they've landed in Cairo as well. And Diana buys the car from the driver as they, just pays him in cash right away. As they speed. Sure, why not? I mean, only in the movies. I guess
they gotta have that. I'm a good guy. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here you go.
I'm not gonna carjack this man. So they start speeding off toward Max's fleet of cars and tanks and trucks. And once Max sees that Diana, like, he understands right away. It's like, oh, you're here to stop me. And then we go into this really cool car chase scene. Like, this whole sequence was visually really cool. The only thing that I kind of bumped into was just the shot of like Diana running at super speed. That kind of looked a little clunky. Like, who's ever in charge of the running effects at DC hasn't quite nailed it yet. I don't know.
Yeah, the running is kind of it is clunky for sure.
Same with Ezra Miller's Flash, but I digress.
I actually like that one. I'm not gonna lie, I like Ezra Miller's Flash, the running.
Yeah, I did think it was cool though when she first got out of the car. Mm-hmm. That like she got out of the car and was like standing still, like at speed, mm-hmm. Before she started running, and I thought it looked cool in terms of how they did that, how that mm-hmm. looked.
And I did like in this one that they're showing even more of her losing her powers in the midst of battle. I did like that they kind of incorporated that. And this was a little bit reminiscent of Indiana Jones too, where she had to go underneath the truck. Yeah.
And the shot where they flipped the truck in midair, that looked it was really done. That looked pretty convincing. And of her leaping over top of it was really cool. And I like how she rescued some of the kids that were playing in the road.
I did not like that one.
No?
I like.
Just thought it was just too set up.
Wow. 2021, John coming out against kids.
Yes.
Here's our
takeaway. John Walters, not a fan of children.
Hot take. Don't save kids.
No, we're kidding.
# do not save the kids. That's right. Listen, no. I like the idea of saving the kids. I think the execution.
In theory,
I got
it's
you.
nice to see kids.
The execution, I did not like the execution on it, because here's
The
what
rope effect?
happens. Here's what's happening. She's swinging, and there's these cars that are coming in. They're about to run them over, right? So she's swinging in way faster than these vehicles, and I'm thinking to myself, she's gonna kill these kids. she's gonna kill these kids by
Just by
trying to
colliding
save
into
them.
them.
And so they did they kind of trick your eyes, because as she's swinging in, they do a slow-mo of her. She's basically clotheslining these kids, okay?
Oh, wow. Lariat.
But, I mean, no, literally, like, she's got her arm out.
Just like JBL, just about to take a Stan Hansen.
And it's scooping these kids.
Yeah.
But, like, and it's, since in slow-mo, it looks like it works. But in real life, she's swinging in so fast, she would have destroyed their bodies. Like, she would have broken all of their ribs.
Instantly.
So then she picks up these kids, and you're like, okay, somehow they are, obviously they're not hurt, and they're in her arms, and then she loses her powers, and she's swinging, and she loses her grip on the rope, and I'm thinking, now they're really gonna die, because she's flying through
What was
the
she
air.
swinging from, also?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Plot
It never shows that. They're
armor.
literally in the desert. They're literally in the desert, and somehow she's hanging on to something. But she's now up in the air, swinging at whatever speed she's going, way faster than the cars. She lets go of the rope, and I'm thinking, they're going to die. They must fall onto something soft. And they land literally in the streets with the kids, with her hanging onto the kids. She lands on top of them.
Yeah.
In the street.
Not even cushioning the blow.
No.
Go watch it. They're literally in the street when they land. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, that whole thing was completely poor execution. Completely poor. She would have killed them with the initial swoop, and then she lets go of the grip. Not her fault, but then she falls on top of them in the street. There's nothing soft or whatever. I'm like, those kids are dead. There's no way, absolutely no way that would have been right.
I'm glad you pointed this out. Like, I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Hashtag save the kids. Hashtag poor execution. Like,
hot take.
Yes, that was a thanks for trying to save the kids, but you killed them before the truck did.
Like, wow, this did not go according to plan.
That's pretty much what it was.
That could have been really dark.
Go watch that scene. You can watch it on YouTube clips. You'll know right away. Like, oh wow, yeah, she definitely killed those kids twice.
Like, yeah,
without a doubt.
Gosh.
That's hysterical.
So I did not like that part at all. I mean, I liked the idea. It was just a really poor execution on that part.
Yeah. I did like the bit where they were showing that she was losing her powers. Although, I mean, I wasn't totally sure because like Diana isn't necessarily bulletproof. She's always blocking bullets with like either lasso or her wristbands. Plus, like her aunt Antiope and a lot of other Amazons were killed by guns in 1918.
So she's not like the others.
Yeah, well, because Zeus is her father, so
she's made out
of her father. Huh?
I said she was molded out of clay and then brought to life by Zeus.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. She was the what was that called? The God killer or something like that. Because like she was given from Zeus, so she's not like the rest of the Amazonians. She's not. She's like a demigod, whatever. The other ones are not demigods. They're regular practically humans that are super athletic and all that stuff. So she's different. So she is kind of like
that makes sense. But
yeah.
But yeah, so apparently just the last wish thing with the wall going up in Cairo, that had his whole thing just had devastating effects on global politics and the economy, according to this news bite. And just chaos is just starting to ensue as Max Lord is rapidly taking over the global oil industry. Diana checks in with Barbara over the phone as Barbara explains that, according to her research, the Dreamstone has appeared throughout history and had eventually decimated just every civilization that had used it, the most recent being the Mayans. So Barbara found a flyer for some guy who claims to be a descendant of the Mayans who living in D.C. He says he knows something about the stone. Again, super convenient that it has to be in D.C. That he happens to be in D.C. I should say. I guess they come back to D.C. the day after, and the next day Barbara approaches the alley behind the record store that leads her to Baba Shide, aka Frank Patel, which we find out that's what his name is. I love that. I guess he's Indian now, like East Indian as well as being descended from the Mayans, but I digress. The guy from the flyer. So with the fur coat and the heels, I wrote, Barbara looks like a hooker at this point, even for 1984 standards. Like, she looks like she's turning tricks back there.
Wow.
So Diana and Steve eventually meet her there as they enter his warehouse that he most certainly squats in. And I like the close-up of some of the wrestling magazines he has there with Jerry the King Lawler and like the albums and like the vinyl he has of like Steve Perry and Simon and Garfunkel. Just little stuff I've noticed there in his warehouse. And I think they tried to explain it here in this scene where it's like, Steve kind of likened it to the fable of the monkey's paw, which grants your wish, but in return takes your most valued possession. And apparently this can only be stopped by destroying the stone itself or getting everyone to renounce their wish. So Diana realizes that Max has somehow become the stone, and so they come to like the conclusions that either they must get everyone to renounce their wish or they need to kill Max. So Barbara does not want to kill Max. She's just horrified at that idea. And Diana doesn't really want to kill him either. But they're just not sure.
So wait. If they kill Max, what happens?
Supposedly that reverses, that undoes all this stuff.
But
because
just
they would need to. Because apparently you would need to destroy the stone itself, but Max has become the stone. Ergo, you kill Max, and that undoes everything.
So why is it that when he renounces his wish, it doesn't undo everything?
I guess because they have to have everyone renounce their wish.
But they said either everyone renounces their wish or kill Max Lord. But
something.
Max Lord renounces his wish.
It's really weird.
Getting rid of the problem, getting rid of the problem by renouncing his wish. So that's again. Since we're doing a review, I'm really. This is where I
agree. I agree
that
totally.
they're creating these rules. They're not following the rules at all.
Because if everyone, so we're not going to kill Max. So everyone, including Max, have to renounce their wish. But if Max renounces his wish, doesn't that just create the Dreamstone?
Yeah, you would think.
Like if he became it and he's like, I renounce my wish to be the Dreamstone, does that recreate the Dreamstone?
I don't know.
They never address that.
Yeah.
When they never address, I was wondering if like, I don't know, the dust comes out of them and there's like a Dreamstone that
like
becomes
it physically reforms. I don't know, man. Like, and again, I'm not all that well versed in like Wonder Woman's solo comics and stuff, but like, man, with all the stories that it's been told over the years, it's just why go with the magic wishing rock? Like that's such a it's such a bizarre plot device. Like they could have adapted so many other things,
They could have, but
that's really where the movie falls apart.
But the two things I like, not that I liked, but the Bruce Almighty scene, because it seemed to escalate very quickly where it's just utter chaos. The scene where Jim Carrey as Bruce Almighty just goes on the computer and grants everyone's wish, and it's like
answers everyone's prayer. Yeah.
Answer everyone's prayer.
Yeah. No, same idea.
But the thing that struck me was if it was true what they said about the Mayans, that it destroyed them because they wouldn't renounce their wish. In order for that to really be a dilemma, it would seem like, your wish would really, really have to mean something to you. And for Diana, I got that it did, but the people that we see for the most part make wishes. It's kind of, extreme to the point. It's not like everyone was saying, I hope I don't, I have a week to live. I wish that I don't die. Or
one guy just wanted a cup of coffee.
Right.
And
that was all he wanted.
Nobody wanted to wish for world peace at all. Not one person.
Oh no, of course not.
Not in the 80s.
The one guy outside the apartment complex who, what did he have to get, like his goats, or what type of animal was just out there?
Yeah,
in the
there
field?
was this one bit about this older guy who
cows.
said he wanted a farm. He wished for a farm. He's like, not here though.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're in crazy town right now. Like this.
It's crazy.
How did they solve this one?
You have to renounce your wish. It's like, no, I wanted a farm. I got a farm. Yeah, it's in the middle of DC, but
I mean, I can work with that.
It just seemed like, like some of the wishes were just. It didn't seem like it was really going to be that hard of a choice. It's like, hey, the world's going to end, or you have to renounce your wish. It's like, oh, but I've always wanted a Lamborghini.
Right.
It's like.
So, anyways, I just want. I don't mean to stop it, but every now and then I still have to address this wish thing as we come upon it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a recurring critique throughout this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the office, Max and his new employees are planning their next move. Max is already in really bad shape when his assistant tells him that he's scheduled to be with his son for the night. And Max loudly complains about it, just without really thinking about it, and Alistair overhears it, and he's devastated. He's running away crying, which Max instantly feels terrible about, as he should. So he tells the assistant to take care of Alistair while he welcomes his new client, which is this Chinese businessman. I think Lai Zong was the character's name. So we see a montage of these various clients where Max just becomes more manic and distraught. And when he sees his son again, Alistair he's a little sad and scared, but Max tries to console him and tries to get a wish out of him. And, I guess, that tries to reinforce everyone gets one, although they don't really, as we later find out. So Max uses his powers to get an audience with the president. And, we see shots of chaos happening around the city. One older lady says something about there being a riot at the Saudi embassy and Porsches racing up and down the street, while which I thought was funny. While we see the old man who wished for a farm and suddenly has cows all over the place, and just like I said in the notes, like
so crazy.
Like we're officially in just cuckoo town. That's where we're at right now. It's just off the rails completely. Back at Diana's apartment, she and Steve arrive back there, and while Diana's in the other room, Steve looks around and he really realizes I can't stay here. He's like, he tries to tell her this, but she's just had such a tough time moving on since he died, and she says, man, can't I just have this one thing? And she doesn't want to talk about it. She's frustrated because all she's ever wanted was to be with him, and he's like, look, there's a big world out there, and she is capable of moving on, and he knows what needs to happen, even if she won't admit it. But then inside Diana's secret monitor room, Steve sees the armor of Asteria, and using the lasso, she's able to kind of show him glimpses of the image, which I thought that was unusual. I didn't know the lasso had that power, but
yeah.
It can do what it needs, what you need it to do.
Yeah, super convenient. Steve learns the story of Asteria, implying, which I guess the implication was that she sacrificed herself, and all Diana was able to find was the armor. I'm like, okay, good, interesting, explanation of why she has this armor. Sell some toys, that's why.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's
and I
merchandise.
think more fan service. I think it's very similar to how she was drawn in the comic Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
I believe there's parts of Kingdom Come where she's in a
she had some
similar
battle
type of armor. Yeah.
It's cool as hell.
Hey,
I dig it.
Fun fact: Asteria is played by Linda Carter.
Yes. We're jumping ahead, but we were gonna get to that.
Yeah. Definitely we're gonna address that.
Yeah. So inside the Oval Office, Max meets with the president, who I thought, again, why not have someone who looks? They never explicitly say that it's Reagan, which I think, like, if you're going to do an '80s movie, just have someone who looks like Reagan in there.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, at first I thought it was like a bad Reagan impression, but but this guy's not necessarily Reagan because it's the comics. Well, Diana, she's looking to for her buddy Carl to kind of use him to get into the White House. Right. That guy from the party we saw earlier, Captain Exposition. During the tour of the White House, Diana and Steve sneak off, and Max keeps on talking to the president. He talks the president into wishing for more nukes in order to gain leverage in the Cold War. Again, really one of the only timely things in the movie. In return, Max gets all the president's power, the respect, as well as complete diplomatic immunity, straight out of Lethal Weapon 2. The president then tells Max about these new satellites in this global version of the emergency broadcast system, and Max sees that as his opportunity, but is met in the hall by Diana and Steve. So Diana catches Max, she lassos him, but that doesn't affect his abilities. But meanwhile, Diana and Steve, they're fighting off the Secret Service. I liked the effect where she was spinning the lasso to deflect the bullets. I thought that was an interesting use of it there.
Yeah, I like that. That was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. Just great fight scene, and I do like how she makes it a point to tell Steve, don't kill these guys. They're under the influence. Don't hurt them. We're just trying to stop them from hurting us. I thought that was sort of a cool little aside. And just as they're about to to apprehend Max, Barbara shows up to stop them. Barbara does not want them to kill Max. Not only that, Barbara doesn't want to give her new power. She makes that very clear. She runs from the Secret Service and the police. Meanwhile, Steve fights with Max while Diana tries to stop Barbara from hurting anyone, and they end up fighting. So Barbara is absolutely just drunk with power at this point, and Barbara escapes with Max to Marine One, the president's helicopter. Pretty good scene all around there.
I thought it was really well done.
Yes,
especially the hallway style fight, which has kind of been more popular with some of the comic book TV shows and whatnot. It wasn't exactly Daredevil or whatnot with fighting throughout the hall, but I did think it was. I thought it was that type of closer quarters fight. I thought it was good.
It was well done. Back in the Oval Office, the Joint Chiefs are informing the president that the USSR is about to declare war because of the missing nukes, and that the streets are just erupting into riots at this point. Meanwhile, Steve takes a badly wounded and weakened Diana to a hiding spot, and Steve finally tells her that she needs to renounce her wish, and that'll save her and that'll get her powers back. And he says his goodbyes, and it's just really emotional scene. They really do this. Diana says she'll never love again, and Steve says I pray that that's not true, and it's just really beautiful stuff all around. Again, like I said, the stuff between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot are really, the moments they have together in this movie are great. Really one of the higher points of this movie, I think.
Yeah.
So agree. She renounces her wish and gains her power back, and then once she kind of uses the lasso almost like Spider-Man uses his webs. She's just a lot of swinging, and then finally, once she gets in the sky, she figures out how to fly under her own power.
Which, by the way, I was so convinced in the trailer, because they show that in the trailer where she's running through the streets and then kind of whips her lasso and off she goes. I thought for sure that was the invisible jet she was lassoing, and then she's like takes off.
Oh,
But
tricking it, yeah.
yeah,
That would have been cool to see. Yeah.
but apparently she was just lassoing on top of the building that was far away. So
Sure.
But-
Or a street
but
light.
yeah.
Maybe.
yeah, I like. Did she lasso a plane?
I think so at one point.
Yeah, want to get up in the air or something like that. I felt
Yeah. She lassoed like a commercial plane, and
yeah.
thankfully she
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
tear that out of the sky. But thankfully no one was hurt there. But yeah, once she gets in the sky, she figures out how to how to fly, which is a pretty cool moment. I'm not sure how she lassoed like a cloud.
Yeah.
Like that, a cloud isn't a solid object; it's a gas. Like that. Okay, like I'll go with it. Fine.
Well, lightning isn't really a solid.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's nitpicking at this point, but
I will say I did not enjoy the flying scenes. I understood the concept of like she's figuring out her flying powers, but Man of Steel, they did an amazing job with the flight scenes.
They did.
Amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
And then this scene, I understand she's just figuring out how to fly, so she's not going to go a million miles an hour. She's going to go slow. But I think just the camera angles and how literally she looked like she was going around, I don't know, throwing an arm out, and it did not look good to me. I don't know what you guys thought about it, but I thought it didn't look good at all. It didn't look like she was flying. I don't know. It looked like B-roll film where she's just doing her thing, but
didn't really bother me. But I could see how it might bother.
I couldn't. This was another thing where I couldn't tell. Like, it wasn't clear to me. Am I supposed to take away from this that she is now flying under her own power, or is she just using the lasso to get up in the air and just kind of like coasting until
gliding
until she needs to use the lasso again?
Right.
I mean, maybe there might be all of those things. But inside the helicopter, Marine One, Max is telling Barbara that he can rebuild himself through other people's wishes, and somehow that allows him to grant more wishes. So he offers that to Barbara, and Barbara doesn't want to be like anyone anymore. She wants to be like an apex predator. So again, she gets more than one wish. I don't know.
I thought that was for me, that was a real stretch in terms of how to get her to go
feral.
I mean, I think she's had. I think the character Dr. Barbara Minerva has had different origins, but who talks like that? Like I want to have Diane. I want to have this person's powers. I want to have that. I mean, who
how do you go from that to being like, what? I want to be a cat. I want to be a jungle cat.
I want to be an apex predator. What? What does that even mean?
And also, I don't think cheetahs are apex predators.
No, they a shark. They should have turned into like a King Shark movie and blindsided everybody.
Yes. Oh my God, that would have been amazing swerve.
That would have been great.
Wow, like that would have been. Yeah,
Cheetah's an apex predator. That's a top of the food chain.
Yeah. Don't lions eat them? I don't.
Type of cat. It's a big cat. Lions do eat them, but that doesn't mean cheetahs aren't apex predators. Yeah.
It just seemed like a very weird specific thing to ask to be. Like, I want to be an ape, because is there any other point in the movie where that phrase or something comes up?
Nope.
Well, I mean, like, she wears
I
a
want
lot
to
of
be
like
an
cheetah
apex
print
predator.
clothing, but like, is she like really into big cats? Like they know.
So
she's not like she doesn't become like Carol Baskin all of a sudden and is just fascinated by tigers.
I mean, I will say, I guess that's a better line than "I want to be a cheetah."
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
I actually think I would have liked it if she turned into Carol Baskin better.
Yeah. She says, "I want to be a cheetah," and the last 20 minutes is just her at a furry convention.
This is not what I wanted, Max. So when Max and Barbara arrive at the bunker, the secret broadcasting facility, he's activated all the satellites to, enact his master plan to get wishes from pretty much everyone, as many people in the world as possible. And
I don't like this thing that's coming up. It didn't make any sense. So they said, oh, we got new satellites. And then within this satellites is a top secret program that somehow you can physically be connected to everybody.
Yeah, the whole thing was nonsense.
Everybody's TV using satellites.
It seemed to be like a way, for the comic book nerds to talk about Brother Eye without calling it Brother Eye.
Wow, deep cuts. Yeah.
But the thing but for Max Lord, his problem was he couldn't get enough people to physically touch and then grant the wish. And this skips the whole, I can physically touch them without being everywhere at once.
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
I think that's right.
Is that right?
I think
but
you're
somehow
right.
you're physically touching everybody through the TV.
Yeah,
it's like in the metaphorical sense now. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Because some people weren't even watching TV.
I will say this. I'm kind of glad. I was thinking, like, all right, in the timeline of the DC universe, I'm like, man, I hope Bruce Wayne wasn't watching this when it was going on, because he would have been just a kid back then. It's like, you know what he would have wished for. How sad would that have been to get a young Bruce Wayne to renounce his wish? Like, come on.
Oh, God.
Am I right though? Like,
he wouldn't have, and then he would have ruined everything.
You don't know that. Maybe he would have wished to have gone seen Zorro a second time.
Yeah.
Or on a different day, or maybe in the daytime.
Yeah. So anyway, so Max Lord has somehow been told you can touch everybody without touching them, and
yeah, I guess he kind of figured it out through that one televangelist, one freaking Jimmy Swaggart guy he was talking to, or whatever he was supposed to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Jack, with the plot. I'm just saying the plot is just so bad. This is where it gets really. It's just gotten. It gets like really bad as each act goes on.
Right.
Like first act was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Second act, you're going, it's going a little bonkers here, and then third act, it is completely bonkers,
off the rails, completely.
And is it?
But we still get shots of Diana lassoing the lightning bolt and riding the.
I do like that shot.
That's pretty metal.
Like that. But
I like that shot.
But so with Max though, was it one of these things that the Dreamstone, now that he became it, corrupts him? I mean, because the Dreamstone had this corrupting ability anyway with people making their wishes, but like at a certain point, I'm just like what was his end game to doing?
Yeah,
all
like
that?
what exactly did he want? Like, what was he looking? I mean, besides like generally having power, it's like he already had that by that point.
Yeah, I mean,
like what more do you want?
Villains to me are always more interesting if they have very, specific goals. Somebody who wants to have power just to have power, I don't necessarily find particularly interesting.
Yeah.
Like with Man of Steel, for example, like Zod, like I get, he is an alien. He is stuck here. He wants to get his people back. He was kind of an extremist on his planet.
Right.
Like I get what he wants to try and do, and then the destruction that it causes. But like somebody who wants power for the sake of having power, I don't always find as interesting.
Yeah,
and
I mean that's what I had bumped into in Batman versus Superman with Lex Luthor. I had no idea like what did he want in that movie, but that's a sidebar.
Yeah.
Anyways, Diana stops by her apartment to get the gold armor, and all poor little Alistair wants is to have his dad back. Like that broke my heart seeing that. But then Diana flies in with the gold armor kind of looking like a sexy version of Goldar from the Power Rangers.
Yes.
So wait, does she fly in because she can fly, or does she fly in because the armor has wings?
I don't think the wings actually cause her to fly. They're more just ceremonial in nature.
I feel like we're asking questions the writers of the movie
way
didn't.
too. Yes.
No, they don't even know.
We've looked into this way harder than they have. So, and then she finally is approached by Barbara, who's gone full like feral and like I'm digging the fight. Like I wish she would have turned into Cheetah earlier in the movie though, because it's cool seeing the visual like of her straight out of the comics looking like Cheetah.
The action scene looked great. The fight between them I thought looked great.
Yeah, it did. And when they get underwater, Diana tries in vain to get Barbara to renounce her wish. But then when Barbara refuses, Diana like electrocutes her with an open wire. I don't think she was trying to kill her at that point, but I guess she figured like that's the only way I'm going to be able to take her down.
Yeah.
Or knock her out at that point.
Which, by the way, that's a big plot hole for me because she has all of Diana's abilities.
But yeah.
So if Diana is electric proof, so is she. Like,
well, she asked to be the apex predator. Wouldn't that cancel out the previous wish?
I would think. Yeah.
I think. I mean, I
true.
guess that's the only way.
Yeah.
But
and if Diana got her powers back, wouldn't that take away from Barbara?
I think that was just like her add-on. You know, it's like going from Super Saiyan 1 to Super Saiyan 2. I don't know how to say that. Like, you get what I'm.
Speaking of Super Saiyan, I wrote that because Max is going full Super Saiyan at this point. He's in the bunker, getting more and more powerful. Pedro Pascal is just chewing up the scenery at this point. Like he's really hamming it up.
Acting with a capital A.
Yes, acting.
On this scene is definitely like, whoa. It's like
he goes big.
It goes bonkers from this.
He goes real big with it. I do like, I do like hearing Hans Zimmer's score, sort of that opening from Batman versus Superman, as she uses Max through the lasso to like talk to all the people affected and tell them to renounce the wish. And I put it,
which I did not like. There's just this whole third scene. I mean, this whole third act. I did not like this whole third act. I'm sorry. This is where I'm talking about where there's a lot in here. I'm like,
it's a lot.
And like, I mean, go ahead.
No, I didn't like it.
Yeah, I made a note like, honestly, this isn't any more ridiculous than anything else in this movie, but still, yeah. Sorry, Jim, what were you gonna say?
I not to key into too much with like, current events or the current state of the world. Mm-hmm. It was a very nice speech Wonder Woman made, but I was like, it's a good thing. It's clearly fiction because in the current state of the real world, nobody would renounce their wish, and this would be a steaming pile of garbage instead of our planet.
Not only would that happen now, but that would happen 40 years ago too.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Yeah, it's just like the nature of humanity is that.
Yeah,
it was.
It was very hokey.
And
then we see.
I don't know. It was just. I was like going. I was like puking a little bit during this whole scene. I'm not gonna lie.
We see Max having flashbacks to his childhood, which is like, again, good character beats, but it's like, man, it's way late in the movie to start tacking on his backstory.
That makes it him like so much more interesting that part of this could be because of his traumatic abusive childhood, and why are we finding this out like the last a flashback in the last 5 or 10 minutes?
It's very poorly timed
the whole way.
Yeah, not a bad character note, but just again timing of it. And he finally sees all the chaos in the world, finally snaps out of it when he sees Alistair running scared into the danger that he has caused at these nukes start launching. And so Max renounces his wish in order to save his son. This causes everyone else to seemingly renounce theirs. And I wonder if this causes like damage to be undone or people to forget about this on a global scale. I feel like on some point,
Oh,
like this,
what? What are you
I feel
talking
like it.
about?
I feel like it would have been convenient if this some renouncing of the wish somehow caused like a lot of people to forget this. Otherwise, like how does that explain anything going
There's
forward?
no
I feel like.
way.
I asked the same question though, because
Yeah.
they could easily go and find Max and say, "Okay, you're going to jail, Bucko."
Yeah, yeah, he doesn't go to jail in this
He
one.
doesn't do nothing happens.
In fact, the presidential flight people fly him out to go
Yeah,
see
he
his.
yeah he takes Marine One like back to where he wants to go.
Well, after
After
his wish, or
yeah, after he renounced his wish.
Right? Like
But isn't it odd how like so the nukes just disappear, but
Yeah.
but aren't there scenes afterwards where there's
Yes.
still destruction and
Yeah,
chaos
yeah.
everywhere?
Right.
So it's like
yeah.
some things got put back right, some things didn't.
That's right. And that's why I
yeah.
said there's no way you can just have it where people forget. I can understand if people forget where everything was like put back the way it was and there's almost no physical evidence. But there's there's literally physical devastation everywhere
yeah.
in this movie after he renounces his wish. So there's absolutely no way you could just be like, everybody can forget about what's going on. Everybody go back to your houses.
I mean, is that any more ridiculous though than anything else we've seen in this movie though? Really?
Oh no.
No.
You know who I feel the most for though? I mean, look, 1984, Russia and the US, the height of the Cold War, talking about those things on a global scale. I feel bad for that guy and that who wished his wife dead.
Oh yeah. Like
They're gonna have a bad time.
this British
They're gonna
couple.
have the rest of that marriage it's gonna be rough.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, remember that time you wished that I would die, and I almost did?
And then I died.
Because he renounced it and she came back, I guess. But
Yeah.
I think he was like the middle of the renouncing montage though. He wasn't one of the first.
It took him a second to think about it.
So see, here's another part is Cheetah, she never renounces any of her wishes.
That's true. Like
but she like went back to Super Saiyan 1, like at the end of the movie.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Like, does she go back to normal? Like, did she actually
No,
renounce
no,
her wish?
no,
I don't
she-
think she did.
No, she's in her again Super Saiyan 1 mode, her
Right.
Diana mode
In her
instead
same
of
clothes,
Apex.
yeah.
Instead of Apex Cheetah mode. So like for some wishes it went back, and for a lot of other wishes it did not. Apparently.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad they didn't kill her off, because I would want to see Cheetah come back in like a Justice League movie later on.
But would she be Cheetah? She would just be Diana.
Who
Diana's twin or whatever it is.
who knows, dude? I'm speculating. There have been more than one Cheetah in the comics as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can always find something that now that she's done that, she figures out some other way to become that.
Sure.
To become Super Saiyan 2 again.
Yeah.
Why not?
To level up.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, I don't know what they would even charge Max with if he got arrested. I guess, I mean, who knows? But cut to what seems like months later during Christmas, which I wonder if this got filmed specifically for the delayed release or not. But because it was originally supposed to come out during the summer, maybe they just added this on because they knew they wanted to wait till Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's Christmas time, and Diana's walking around, in downtown DC, where she notices the guy who Steve took over, and they have,
Awkward.
yeah, and they have kind of a nice little back and forth. He has no idea what happened, but the bit,
It's like, dude, if you only knew, dude.
yeah,
If
you poor
only
bastard.
knew. So yeah, they have a little. Oh, fun fact in the background is Gal Gadot's husband and
And
kid.
they're two girls. Yeah.
Yeah,
I read that
and
they.
Patty Jenkins' son is in the
Oh,
background
There
really?
you
too.
go. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
Ah, that
yep,
is a neat little fun fact. That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
During that scene where she's looking at the Carl who she slept with, so.
Yeah,
But
the dude that she
yeah,
raped,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
low key.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Well, yeah.
but yeah, so I wrote like kind of a back and forth about it. The bit about the outfit is like I really like this outfit. Yeah, that was kind of funny, but I guess
Yeah,
it
yeah.
kind of implies that Diana might finally have a little bit of peace and closure as far as Steve goes.
Well, that's
Um,
what the balloon was for.
yeah,
The balloon was that a little kid lost it and it's going up, and she could have gotten it, but she's learning to let go and be content. That's kind.
I wrote a note like, yeah, the ending with the red balloon, like, what was that about? But I guess that explains it. Seemed a bit
Yeah, yeah.
pretentious, but but it's fine. I mean, and the final shot of Wonder Woman flying, that's a good way to end. And then, of course, the mid-credit scene, as Derek, I know you mentioned earlier, we learned that Asteria is alive and is played by Linda Carter. So
Oh shit! There was a post-credit scene.
yeah, that was a
Oh, dude, as soon as
mid-credit
the
scene.
credits rolled, I was out.
Yeah.
I had fulfilled my obligation at that point. I was done.
Yes, you already checked out. Don't
Damn, I
blame you.
seen
But
that.
yeah,
So that scene with Asteria / Linda Carter, it's pretty cool because when she turns around, they do like a subtle where she does throw her arms, kind of both arms around like this, like she does in the when she was doing her thing. She does her little twirly
and
thing
she
with her
had like the
arms
blue
out.
dress, which is kind of like the blue cape that she wore on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you watch that scene again, you'll check it out. She does a subtle both arms twirl around type of deal, and it's like, oh, that's like a
It was
cool
definitely a
little nod
nice
there.
little winking at the camera kind of moment.
Yeah, yeah. I liked that part. That was cool.
I did too. I really liked that
Yeah,
mid-credit scene. I thought that
yeah,
was good.
yeah.
I thought it was a nice touch.
So there you go, man. We finally got through Wonder Woman 1984. Like there were some cool moments in there, but just that third act was a hot mess, as we all observed. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's frustrating for me because I love the DC, like most of the DC movies, I really enjoy, and like I want them to be great,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating. I guess Walter Hamada is like the main guy at DC Films over there right now, but I don't know if he has like Kevin Feige levels of like power of. I think just with Warner Brothers, it's such a big studio that they just have so many cooks in the kitchen, and just the way that company is structured, it just makes it tough because there's always like this movie had like 14 producers on it. And yeah, I think it's just too many cooks in the kitchen is why DC is struggling, in the way that Marvel doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also part of it's part of it's the writing. I mean, I really like, in terms of the direction, Patty Jenkins and what she's done. Some of the other movies, in terms of the DC movies, the directors they pick, I not a huge fan of all the time, but I mean, it's tough. Like the Russo brothers for Marvel just knock it out of the park. Like
they're amazing.
They know exactly what they're doing, and I have a tendency to think some of the DC movies can be a little darker in tone, and I don't know. I overall I thought this movie was like fine. There were a lot of moments that I really liked. I thought they were fun to look at. I thought they looked nice. I thought everyone acting in it was doing a great job. It just didn't come together in the way that I had hoped. I didn't by any means hate it or really even dislike it. It was something to do on Christmas after the kids went to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like people are saying it's like the worst movie ever. I'm like, no, it's not that. Like it's disappointing, yeah, but is it like complete, crap? I don't think so. I think that's a little harsh.
Oh yeah, I mean, no, I don't think it's
I mean,
crap,
it's not great. Let's be honest.
I mean, as far as DCEU connected movies, I think the Harley Quinn movie is the worst one.
Yeah.
For the DCEU movies, not
really?
DC movies, but
Yeah,
DCEU
DCEU.
specifically.
Birds of Prey, I thought was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed Birds of Prey. I could sit down and put on Birds of Prey and watch it from beginning to end.
Okay.
If you asked me to do that with like Aquaman, which I was really looking forward to, but I was just bored out of my mind with Aquaman.
That's fair.
I couldn't do it again. But yeah, Birds of Prey, I thought it was fun. I thought everyone was like very well cast in Birds of Prey, and I really, really
see you and I are a little bit flipped on that. I can
Yeah.
watch Aquaman a lot more than Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey, for me, I was more bored, and I didn't care for it as much. But that's film for you. Film is very subjective. You know?
Where do you land, Derek?
On which one, Aquaman and Harley Quinn, or the Wonder Woman?
Just all around, I guess.
Yeah, do Wonder Woman first, and then tell us your Aquaman Birds of Prey thoughts.
So, it's a movie that has potential. The problem with DC, though, is they like to put so much into a movie, but they don't take the necessary direction to make it all come together and tell a cohesive story. I like the relationship between Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. I mean, they obviously have chemistry, but was it necessary for it to be the focal point of the movie? Again, it's a superhero movie where half of your action takes place in the third act, and it's all just kind of rushed. And really, like, Cheetah should have been the main villain or the main focus. You could have had Max as like a sub character,
Yes.
and had him doing like evil stuff to get things started, but then maybe he disappears and you just focus on Cheetah. But she should have like showed up in Cheetah form in like mid-movie, you know, and then Diane's chasing her. I hated the Asteria costume because all of a sudden we're in her apartment, there's the costume, and it's like, okay, so it's going to be like Thor's hammer. Like, she needs to be worthy and be confident in herself to wield the armor. And then she wields the armor, but it does nothing for her except protect her until it's destroyed. I mean, it gives no buffs. It's just kind of a...
Yeah, and we were led to believe that this armor like wielded off all the armies of man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's destroyed
before, so
in like
that
5
kind of flies in the face of that.
It didn't wield off an apex predator, guys.
Well, true.
It just needed to be shorter. There needed to be a little bit more action. For some reason, the sword and the shield were missing, which really bothers me. I don't know why that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, she didn't really have those, did she?
No, it was all focused on the lasso, and the lasso can do a lot more than just tell the truth, which...
Yeah, that was a weird beat as well.
Yeah, it was ambitious, but it just didn't pay off. And then as far as Aquaman and Harley Quinn, I like both of those movies. So,
all right.
I didn't like when they first came out with Birds of Prey that they were trying to do Birds of Prey, but it was really a Harley Quinn movie.
It's like, just call it the Harley Quinn movie.
With Birds of Prey. But whatever. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, that was a weird marketing tool. But again, like, there's so many different directions they could have taken with this movie, and ways they could have simplified it. And yeah, I mean, what you guys said, I mean, I'm pretty much on board with.
Continuity in this movie, it really messes up continuity, in my opinion, in this movie.
I agree, and I'm a big stickler on continuity as well. So that always bugs me when you have those issues. But I mean, it was what it was. I mean, Patty Jenkins is a good director. Everyone in the cast was really trying hard. Like, I mean, everyone was. All the performances were pretty good. Yeah.
So, I agree.
Yeah.
So that was it. We kind of went over everyone who, all the main players who were in the cast and whatnot.
So they did greenlight the third Wonder Woman movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll be going in production pretty soon. Which is good.
Well, see, I know really, like, up next as far as the movie releases are the Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad 2, basically, with James Gunn directing.
I'm really interested in that one for sure.
That's scheduled to be released in August. I'm not sure when like the Snyder cut of Justice League comes out on HBO Max yet. I don't know when the release date is on that.
I'm looking forward to it.
I know
Me too.
I know they're planning on like a spin-off series from the Suicide Squad about the Peacemaker, which is going to be John
Yeah.
Cena's character.
Yeah.
Which I don't know anything about that character, but like,
Me too.
He's an old, I think, Charlton comic
Yes.
character. So like that's where the Question came from. The Question was a Charlton comic character. If you think of Watchmen,
mhm.
Originally I believe the characters in Watchmen were supposed to be some of those old Charlton.
Yeah, like Rorschach
comic
was
book
based
characters
off the Question.
On the Question, right? I think John Cena's great. I'm really looking forward to Suicide Squad 2 because I think James Gunn's a great director. And
I thought Cena would have been good as Shazam, but
Yeah.
I thought he would have been good at that. But I mean, look, they've got Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. That's coming. So that would have almost been too cheesy to see them fight in that capacity.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
You know?
that would have been a little too much.
Especially since they've already wrestled.
Yeah.
I know. Supposedly Black Adam is in pre-production. You know, Dwayne Johnson is gonna like try like hell to get that made because knowing him, like he will move heaven and earth to see like Black Adam because you know he wants to fight Superman. Like knowing Dwayne, like he's gonna do everything in his power to make that happen.
Yeah.
Which I'm so mad at WB because they're not doing any Superman films. And they're putting him on the back burner. And
No Man of Steel sequel yet.
And I'm just so mad because you've literally, like, to me, Henry Cavill is like the best Superman. He is Superman in my opinion. And
He's
like
great.
you've wasted 10 years, practically of 10, at least 10. Well, it came out in 2013, but even if they were to do production right now, it would probably come out in 2023. So you're still wasting at least 10 years.
And this is
of Henry
Superman
Cavill.
you're talking about. This is like one of your crown jewel characters here.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, but like,
So I don't know if they would have Black Adam fight Superman.
Well, I'm just saying if there's a way to make it happen, you know that Dwayne Johnson wants that to happen.
Yeah.
It's true. He's publicly said it. He's like he wants, he would like to see a fight between Black Adam and Superman for sure.
And I would like to see that too. But yeah, I mean, I guess the Flash movie is finally in pre-production. They've got a release date and everything for it, and I guess they've started shooting for the Aquaman sequel. I think I know they're trying to get a Shazam sequel made, which like if I'm them, I better hurry up because those kids aren't they're not going to stay cute and little for too long. Yeah. You better move ahead with that.
So they've signed Ben Affleck back on as Batman for the Flash movie.
Yeah, supposedly like he's going to be there, and I guess Michael Keaton might show up there as well.
Because obviously they're doing the Flash paradox.
I guess they're going to do Flashpoint. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I think this is their way of trying to reset the universe, a soft reset, I guess.
Maybe, yeah.
Probably. I mean, they don't have to work too hard to do better than the Flash TV series did Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Because I did not care for that.
Yeah, there's... I don't want to see like another Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like I don't need to see that on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's me personally. You're starting to get into alternate universes and time travel, and just there's already a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But that's probably what they're gonna do. So I don't know, but.
And I know WB is making they've greenlight to have 2 different Batman movies. Because you got the Pattinson,
Yeah, the Robert Pattinson thing. That trailer looked amazing. But rather than have that be like a prequel to Ben's Batman, which I thought that's the direction they were going, which I'm like, right. Yeah, like I'm all for it, but like they're doing their own thing with it. So it's like, all right. I mean, as long as it's good, I don't mind, but it's just like DC, come on, get your house in order. Take care of the big characters first, then we can do the freaking Harley Quinn spinoff and all
that. Robert that Robert
DC
Pattinson movie, it's set in real life. It's not a period piece. It's like present time.
Yeah, at first I thought that was going to be set during like the 90s or something.
Yeah,
I guess
it looks like a period piece, but they said no, it's present time. So
Okay.
it's its own thing. Somebody was gonna say something before I cut him off.
I was just going to say that, I mean, I think, DC just doesn't seem, or Warner Brothers, they don't seem to have it, together in terms of like the Marvel overall plan, which is fine. But
Yeah.
I would almost like better if we're going to put these stuff once, don't do what Marvel did. Marvel did it. You're not going to be able to recreate it. Just hire some great writers, hire some great directors, and put movies up there that are going to be fun and interesting and different. Like I've seen, Pattinson will be the third different like reset of Batman, really, if you think of the Keaton, Kilmer, and Clooney ones as one series, and then the Nolan films as those three. And it's like it looks interesting, but it looks like that dark, gritty style Batman. Like if you want to put Batman on the big screen, like do something different. Like do a Batman Beyond story. Do a completely different like take. Maybe do Batman in a way that the comics have never done, rather than trying to capture like a DC universe. Just give me something like interesting and something that I haven't seen before.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do, where you have a regular DCEU connected movie, and then you have like these other movies, like the Joker movie, and now they're having the Robert Pattinson movie. Now it's still dark, which is what you're trying to talk about, but I think they're trying to have like separate movies where they can just be creative and not have their hands tied, and then try to go for the bigger DCEU type of movies where Suicide Squad is tied into it and stuff like that, So I think they're trying, but they're just all over the place in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's starting to show into the films, because I had high hopes for Wonder Woman 2, because I think the first one did pretty good. I enjoyed a lot of it, a lot more than the second one, as you can tell with the little review we did.
Same.
But I think with them, it's kind of reflecting like how they are as an organization right now with all their properties. It's just, it seems like it can be pretty good in some areas, and then they kind of go bonkers in other areas, and it's bleeding into the films.
And the behind the scenes stuff too. I mean, with like, the allegations against Joss Whedon in terms of how he was on set for the reshoots, and now apparently Ray Fisher's character of Cyborg's getting written out of the Flash movie.
Yeah, he was supposed to be in there, but he's written out, and I guess they're not recasting him. I don't know what they were doing, but guys, let's start wrapping this up.
Yeah.
You can always check out me and Derek's band Vertebreaker. I'll post links to that in the comments. Anything else you guys want to plug before we wrap it up here?
I will say, if anyone's still listening at this point,
God bless you.
I've started reviewing comics for the website Comic Book Yeti, so
oh, cool.
If you like comics, check that out.
Yeah, man.
My first review should be posted soon.
Yeah, right on. Send me a link to that. You can always follow me on Twitter at jackxconnor, and same thing on Instagram. Like me and Derek's band Vertebreaker at facebook.com/vertebreakerband. I'll post all the links in the comments. For Jimmy, for John, for Derek, I'm Jack Connor. This has been the Phoenix Report. We'll see you later.